in prison. I develop mechas to break out. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451. It's sunny today. Previously, one shot destroyed 7 ships, but now one shot destroyed 2 ships. There were 9 warships in total, and half of them had been destroyed. Becky was completely terrified and screamed to urge them to start the space jump quickly. Finally, after nearly 20 seconds of preparation, 9 warships entered the space channel under the sky full of laser beams. Escaped. Becky breathed a sigh of relief and almost collapsed on the command chair. Earth Military Command Center. The opponent's 9 warships started the space jump and appeared near Pluto. Many people cheered excitedly. This time, humans can be said to have won a complete victory. At the cost of a damaged warship, they successfully destroyed the opponent's 9 warships. The last time they faced the 9 warships of the Decidan civilization, humans tried their best and only repelled the opponent. This time, thanks to the power of the super weapon, only 2 attacks destroyed 9 warships. The power of the super weapon can be seen. Why are you so happy? The war is not over yet. Wang Mazhao shouted coldly. Let ship number 1 charge the super weapon. After charging, immediately start the space jump to pursue. After launching, return immediately. Without Wang Mazhao's order, Chen Finqiao and ship number 1 had already ordered the super weapon to buffer again. This time, it was still half power. Old Chen, will there be any problem if we chase them with 1 warship? Tang Ling beside him was a little worried. The incident happened too suddenly. Now, among the 18 warships of mankind, only ship number 1 has been modified and installed with a space jump device. Therefore, only ship number 1 has the ability to pursue. Chen Finqiao shook his head and said, there is definitely a risk, but it should not be a big problem. Calculate the distance accurately and shoot down 6 or 7 of its warships with 1 shot. There are only 3 or 4 warships left. It is not so easy to break our energy shield immediately. We have enough time to start the space jump and return. Tang Ling thought about it and no longer objected. He was unwilling to let the enemy leave like this. At the same time, on the armor warship that escaped by space jump, Becky also recovered and immediately said, contact humans. I want to accuse them. They dared to destroy our warships. Aren't they afraid of our armor army coming? Besides, we are allies. The adjutant looked at Becky speechlessly, thinking that you now remember that you are allies with humans. What have you been doing before? The combat personnel sent a communication request. 20 seconds later, the combat personnel said helplessly, General, the other party refused to communicate with us. What? How dare they? Becky was so angry that he jumped up and down, gritted his teeth and said, damn humans, I will make them pay the price. Quickly, contact Marshal Goner of the Military and Political Council and ask him to send more warships to support us. This time, I will completely destroy humans. The adjutant wanted to persuade, but he swallowed the words back when they came to his lips. He didn't want to pay attention to Becky, a madman. 40 seconds later, in the number 1 ship, Chen Finqiao issued an order for space jump. The intelligent program has already calculated the jump coordinates. With the previous test, jump as a reference, it is much easier to calculate the coordinates. 20 seconds later, the space jump device was ready, and a gap was torn in front of the number 1 ship. This scene was seen by the captains of other warships. Damn it, only the number 1 ship is equipped with a space jump device. It's so annoying. If we also have it, we will chase after it and completely wipe out these armor people. The space jump device is fine. The number 1 ship has it, and we will have it soon. The key is this super weapon. It seems that there is only 1 set. It's so annoying. Why is it installed on the number 1 ship? Chen Finqiao will be so proud of it in the future. Many captains complained. They were really envious. This super weapon can hit a bunch of targets with 1 shot. It's so cool. Near Pluto, among a large number of asteroids, 9 armor warships gathered together. Right here, 1,000 kilometers away from them, the space was torn, and a gap appeared. The moment the gap appeared, it was detected by the warship's early warning system. An unknown target is coming through space jump. The voice of the intelligent program sounded. In the holographic projection, the location of the space channel was instantly marked. Becky, who was thinking about what to do, was suddenly awakened. She raised her head and looked through the porthole. At a glance, she saw a warship squeezed out of the torn space channel in the distant space. The shape was very familiar. It was a human warship. How is it possible? Becky screamed. Space jump. Humans actually mastered the space jump technology. What made Becky even more horrified was that the blue light was accumulating at the head of this warship, as if it had accumulated to the extreme, exuding a terrifying power. Super weapon. And it was a fully charged super weapon. Becky's mind was blank. The next moment, dazzling light filled the entire porthole. Before she could think about it, Becky's eyes went black, and she had lost consciousness. In space, the thick laser beam was like a beam of light, penetrating a full 6 armor warships. Boom boom boom. Continuous explosions. The ruins left by the warship explosion shot out at an incredible speed, and the surrounding asteroids were swept away, and a blank area of thousands of kilometers appeared. Start the space jump. Chen Fingqiao took a look at the remaining 3 armor warships and immediately issued an order to return. The space jump device started again and began to buffer. The 3 armor warships on the opposite side seemed to be immersed in shock and completely forgot to fight back. On the side of ship number 1, while starting the space jump, the super weapon was recharged again, 1/8 of the power. 15 seconds later, another laser beam shot out and hit a warship. The energy shield of this warship was instantly broken, and the warship was penetrated from head to tail by the laser beam and exploded into wreckage. Until this moment, the remaining 2 warships reacted and started in a hurry, probably preparing for a space jump. Let's go. Chen Fingqiao took a last look at the 2 armor warships, and a space channel appeared. Ship number 1 entered it and disappeared. Soon, the 2 armor warships also quickly tore through space and disappeared. Only large and small ruins were left at the scene, proving that a war had broken out here. In the military command center, the deep space monitoring system showed that of the 9 targets, 7 targets disappeared, and 2 targets escaped. And ship number 1 also returned to Earth safely. Until this moment, Wang Mazhao waved his fist excitedly. In a war, destroying 16 warships of the other side can be regarded as a brilliant victory. Go and report the results to your superiors. Wang Mazhao said to the adjutant. At Zhou Yang's home. In the study, Zhou Yang watched the war through holographic projection. When he saw the last 2 armor warships disappear in the solar system, Zhou Yang took a long breath and turned to look out the window. Today is a sunny day. Chapter 452. First phase success. Emergency committee meeting. The war is over, and victory has been won, but the world is not at peace because of this. This time, I'm afraid that our alliance with the Oma civilization has completely broken down. The person in charge of country Y said with a heavy expression. Seen on the opposite side opened his mouth, as if he wanted to speak, but in the end he didn't say anything. The direct fuse of what happened this time was the killing of civilians in country M, and a large part of the reason for this was the indulgence of the Oma people by the Scene government, allowing them to come into contact with human society. So Scene was in the wrong. And this time, Country Z once again made Scene understand that, even though he was a member of the emergency committee, it was useless. In this world, Country Z still had the final say. So Scene couldn't help feeling a little discouraged. He just had to take care of his own little piece of land and do whatever Country Z asked him to do. The person in charge of Country Z said in a deep voice, "It's broken. It's not our fault. It's the Oma civilization that's pushing us too far." Of course, in this situation, it's useless to say anything. The only thing we have to do is to be prepared to meet all the changes and challenges that will come. At this point, the matter was concluded. Several people looked at each other and stopped talking about it. Next, everyone discussed the next military strategy. There were several main points. First, there were not enough warships. There are now 18 warships in service, and 12 are under construction, which is only 30 in total. According to the ideas of several people, let alone 30, even 33,000 would not be enough. So warships need to be built. The meeting decided to build 6 more large manufacturing bases around the world so that 36 warships can be built at the same time. Moreover, not only the construction bases of warships, but also the production lines of carrier-based aircraft and mechas will continue to be added. In addition, Zhou Yang also mentioned the matter of interstellar colonization. The reason was the same as Zhou Yang's previous reason, to prepare a backup evacuation plan for humans and explore more resources in the universe. Since Mr. Zhou thinks it is necessary, let's vote on it. The person in charge of Country Z said. Scene was stunned. Voted on. When did the vote take place? At this time, Scene finally understood that Country Z was going to have the final say. But Scene had no choice but to obey. After the meeting, Zhou Yang immediately began to work on interstellar colonization. Warships must be dispatched, and ship number 1 must not be used. Zhou Yang thought that he could just choose a fully staffed warship. On this day, Zhou Yang, who was in a meeting to discuss the miniaturization of the space jump device, suddenly felt his cell phone vibrate. He took it out and saw that it was a message from Fuxi. Gao Cheng on Prison Island has made some achievements. After glancing at the message, Zhou Yang's face changed slightly, and he suddenly remembered Gao Cheng. The plan has been decided. The specific details will be discussed within your groups. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Zhou Yang said hello to everyone and returned to his office. After calling out Fuxi, Zhou Yang asked, tell me, what's the specific situation? Gao Cheng has been researching for a long time, and it has been a year so far. At the beginning, Gao Cheng was studying underground creatures. Later, he found a special alien called the Shining Clan among the aliens of Folkman. At that time, he specifically asked Zhou Yang to keep this Shining Clan for research. During such a long time, Zhou Yang has never lacked research funds for Gao Cheng, and at the same time, asked Fuxi to keep an eye on Gao Cheng's research progress. Now that such a long time has passed, it is unknown what results have been achieved. Fuxi directly called up a video. In the video, sample chambers appeared one by one. In the sample chamber, there were crawling white mice. The first video was a video of a nest of white mice giving birth. In this litter, a total of 14 pups were born, and on the 3rd day of birth, 6 pups bled to death for no reason. Afterwards, pups continued to die for no reason, until the end, only 2 white mice were left. Zhou Yang glanced at the time record of the video, and it was already the 9th week. The mice in the 9th week were already close to maturity. Then on the 70th day, the 2 crawling mice suddenly mutated. Without any signs, their bodies began to swell and grow in size, from just over 10 centimeters to 20 centimeters. All their hair fell off, and their bright red skin tissue turned brown. And these browns were also hardening rapidly, as if they were wearing a layer of armor. At the same time, the teeth and claws of the mice had different degrees of abnormal growth, and the muscle lines were clearly visible on their bodies. Zhou Yang sat up straight, with a flash of surprise in his eyes, and said, is this successful? Zhou Yang vaguely remembered Gao Cheng's description of the Shining Clan. Before adulthood, their bodies were weak, but after adulthood, their bodies would mutate and become extremely strong warriors. This process was exactly the same as the 2 mice in front of him. Fuxi said, it is considered a success in the first step. At the beginning, Academician Gao directly used the DNA recombination method, but due to unknown reasons, the DNA did not fuse and failed again and again. After a long period of research, Academician Gao injected the mother and carried out genetic modification in the embryonic stage. Then the cubs born successfully retained the mutant genes of the Shining Clan, and the final result is as you see here. I have read Academician Gao's research records. Their next work is to promote and replicate the experiments on mice, and conduct experiments on other animals. The ultimate goal is to develop a plan to directly modify genes and directly mutate the body to strengthen it. Zhou Yang watched the video. In the video, the mutated mice became extremely aggressive, with sharp teeth and mouths, and they easily bit off the wire cage. The jumping ability, speed, and strength have all been greatly improved. In 1 year, there are such research results, which shows that Gao Cheng has really developed something. But it is still a long way from being truly practical. Zhou Yang crossed his arms and fell into deep thought. After a while, He said, Fuxi, do you think it is necessary for life forms to evolve? Or, is there really a perfect life form in the universe? Are humans perfect? Of course they are perfect. The fittest survive, and generations of powerful creatures that adapt to the environment evolve, and eventually become the masters of the earth. But humans are not perfect either. Strength, speed, defense, etc. are not perfect in all aspects. Of course, this is not perfect, and it depends on what it is compared with. But in general, humans are flawed, and seem to have the possibility of evolution. For example, the human brain, as strong as Einstein, can only use 10% of the brain. Chapter 453 Brain. In the past, Zhou Yang had not formally thought about this problem, but now seeing this video, he was somewhat touched. For example, the degree of brain usage. Obviously, the higher the degree of human brain usage, the smarter people will be, and they will also have all kinds of incredible abilities, super thinking ability, photographic memory, etc. But this thing is innate, and it is not something you can improve, just because you want to. Through learning, you can make the brain's usage program higher, that is, become smarter. To use an old saying, the more you use your brain, the smarter it becomes. The number of cranial nerves in the brain is amazing. Some people say that the brain is a supercomputer that is more powerful than supercomputing. Zhou Yang thinks that maybe you can think of it this way, just compare the brain to a super performance computer chip, and the human body is the motherboard, memory and other hardware devices. Even if the performance is as strong as Xianxin 100, it cannot play its full performance when installed on the 486 platform. If you want to play the true performance of the chip, you must have a good set of hardware, that is, a super strong body. Apart from anything else, at least the heat dissipation should be strong and the power supply should be able to keep up. Power supply is like blood supply. If you overuse your brain, the blood supply will be seriously insufficient, and dizziness and blurred vision are common sense. As for heat dissipation, Zhou Yang thinks it may be related to hair. This is also the reason why the smarter people are, the bolder their hair is, because the brain also needs heat dissipation and cooling. So Zhou Yang thinks that from this perspective, it is the human body that limits the use of the brain. Moreover, the human body has a secret subconscious control system. If you overuse your brain, you will be dizzy, lest you kill yourself. This system is like the forced frequency reduction function of a computer. Once the core temperature is in danger, it will immediately reduce the frequency for no reason, or even crash and restart. The more Zhou Yang thought about it, the more he felt that, if humans want to evolve, become smarter, and exert stronger creativity, it may really be related to strengthening the body. Only when the body becomes stronger can it become more intelligent and more perfect. What about mechanical life? Zhou Yang suddenly thought of Millennium again. As early as 65 million years ago, the Oma civilization invented a method for mechanical life to prolong life. Is this also an exploration of their body strengthening? Unfortunately, humans do not have this technology. Coming back to his senses, Zhou Yang said, let Gao Cheng continue his research. After a pause, Zhou Yang said, by the way, please contact Gao Cheng, I'll talk to him. Fuxi nodded and quickly connected Gao Cheng. Mr. Zhao. Gao Cheng saw Zhou Yang, and looked a little excited. He said, I have completed the first phase of my research. I have found a way to fuse and implant genes. Zhou Yang smiled and interrupted Gao Cheng, saying, I already know what you said. Fuxi has all the records. Gao Cheng suddenly realized, but didn't say anything. He said, Mr. Zhao, I think if we continue to study along this line of thought, there will definitely be great discoveries. Sooner or later, humans will be able to break through their own shackles and evolve into higher and more perfect creatures. Developing a nanomedical device to make the world disease-free was Gao Cheng's lifelong wish in the past. Now it has been realized, but Gao Cheng has found a new life goal, which is to make humans no longer suffer from diseases from the moment they are born. A perfect body never gets sick, perfect to the extreme, so Gao Cheng devoted himself to genetic research. I believe you. Zhou Yang smiled and nodded, and then said, by the way, there is one thing. I plan to launch a plan in the near future, as early as next week, to send a fleet to Proxima B. By the way, do you know this planet? Gao Cheng was stunned, nodded quickly, and said, I know, it is said that life may be born on the equator of this planet. Zhou Yang said, that's right, since Proxima b is not far away from us, only 4.2 light years away. Now we have space jump technology, it won't take long to arrive, so I plan to go and see if there is really life on this planet. You are an expert on life, how about going with us and doing some research or something? Gao Cheng calmed down and understood what Zhou Yang meant. Okay, I'm willing to go. An unknown planet and unknown life form have great research value. Gao Cheng said excitedly. Zhou Yang said, okay, you arrange the research institute's affairs and wait for my notification. Because of the gravity zone, you may not have been there for long, but it has been a long time on Earth, so try to arrange the family affairs as well. Gravitational zone. Gao Cheng was stunned, he didn't know anything about this. Zhou Yang did not hide it and explained the time difference inside and outside the gravity zone. Gao Cheng said in disbelief, I never thought that there would be such a magical scene in the universe, it's amazing. After a pause, Gao Cheng asked again, what about communication? The communication problem is also the problem that Zhou Yang has been thinking about for the past few days. The Earth is 4.2 light years away from Proxima b. Communication can be achieved through the main source magnetic gravitational field communication technology, but the problem is this gravity zone. If Gao Cheng sent a message from Proxima b, it should reach the Earth within a few seconds, but the problem is that it has passed through the gravity zone, so there will be two possibilities. One possibility is that the communication arrives in real time without restrictions. But this will produce a paradox. Being in different time dimensions, the communication can be maintained in real time, which is obviously abnormal. Another possibility is that Gao Cheng sent a message in real time, but this message will not arrive on Earth until several months later, and the message sent from Earth will not arrive on Proxima b until several months later. The magical thing is that Gao Cheng on Proxima b will also receive a reply from Earth a few seconds after sending the message, without knowing that a long time has passed on Earth. Zhou Yang thought about it again and again, and felt that the second possibility was the greatest. Don't worry, communication is not a problem. If there is anything, just communicate at any time. Gao Cheng nodded and hung up the video. Another week passed, and the number 2 ship completed the modification of the space jump device. The number 2 ship is a warship selected to carry out the colonization plan. In addition to the full complement of this voyage, the warship also carried a large amount of production equipment, plant seeds and so on. The purpose is colonization. The meaning of colonization, the scientific explanation is that a powerful country immigrates to the area it conquers. In Zhou Yang's opinion, the system deliberately used the word colonization instead of occupation and invasion. The purpose was not to destroy the civilization on this planet, but to own this planet, and even use advanced production technology to let them develop, and then grab greater benefits from them. So Zhou Yang prepared these production equipment, technical data and so on. Chapter 454 Arrival at Proxima b. A middle-aged man with resolute features came up to greet them. He was Chen Yuan, the captain of the number 2 ship. Mr. Zhao, is there anything else you want to tell me? Chen Yuan asked. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, safety comes first. The rest of the things should be carried out according to the plan. If you are undecided, please contact us as soon as possible. Finally, I wish you a safe journey. Chen Yuan nodded vigorously and saluted Zhou Yang. Gao Cheng also came over and said, Mr. Zhao, goodbye. I'm afraid it will be a year or even longer. Bon voyage. Zhou Yang stretched out his hand. A few minutes later, the number 2 ship soared into the sky and quickly disappeared into the atmosphere. Let's go. We have more important things to do. Zhou Yang said to the people around him and turned to leave. Next, the Decidin civilization and the Oma civilization will be huge hidden dangers. It is unknown when the enemy will appear, so speeding up the research and development of weapons and manufacturing more weapons to arm ourselves is the most important thing. But in the number 2 ship, Gao Cheng arranged the team. This time, Gao Cheng was not the only one who came with him. There were also 26 scientists from various fields who formed a technical team. Gao Cheng was the head of this scientific research team. After the arrangements were made, everyone came to the bridge. Space jump was the first time for everyone to experience it, and they were very curious. At this time, the warship had arrived at the geosynchronous orbit. Chen Yuan smiled and nodded to Gao Cheng and others, and then ordered, "Start the space jump." The longer the distance of the space jump, the longer the preparation time. This time, a jump will jump 4.2 light years, so at least 6 to 7 minutes of preparation time is required to allow the space jump device to capture more dark matter. A few minutes later, the space jump device was ready. In front of them, the space was torn apart, and a space channel appeared. The second ship drilled into it and disappeared. Is this a space jump? It's amazing. Many scientists were stunned. The colorful space channel in front of them made people feel the mystery of the universe. After more than 20 seconds, the second ship drilled out of the space channel and appeared in a deep starry sky. "Quick, calculate the position," Chen Yuan ordered hurriedly. At this time, an astronomer named Fred pointed to the porthole and said, "Don't measure it, we are already there. Look, that's the 3-star system of Centaurus." Gao Cheng and others looked up and saw 3 stars of different brightness clearly appearing in front of them. At the same time, the position was also calculated. "Captain, we have deviated from the position a little, but it's not a big problem. We are now about 530 million kilometers away from Proxima Centauri," the combat personnel said. Chen Yuan looked at the 3 stars in the distance. The dimmest one was their target, Proxima Centauri. Proxima Centauri is a red dwarf, so it is relatively dim. "Let's make another space jump." Chen Yuan said 530 million kilometers. It will take a long time to drive there. After the system was calculated, the battleship started the space jump again. A few seconds later, the battleship drilled out of the space channel and appeared next to a huge red planet. This should be Proxima Centauri. And on the right side of the battleship, there is a planet that is indistinguishable between black and white. "This must be Proxima b," said astronomer Fred. "What about Proxima A? Doesn't Proxima have 2 planets?" someone asked in confusion. "Proxima has 2 planets, named Proxima A and Proxima b." Fred thought for a moment and said, "It should be orbiting to the opposite side of Proxima." The battleship slowly turned and faced Proxima b. The battleship's detection system has begun to detect Proxima b. At this time, it is 2.3 million kilometers away from Proxima. "There is an atmosphere," the combatant said. After a pause, the combatant said, "But this atmosphere is too thick. You can't see the surface of the planet at all." From everyone's perspective, Proxima b is a black and white ball. The black side always faces away from Proxima, while the side facing Proxima is white. Fred pondered for a moment and said, "Could it be due to flares? According to our observations, Proxima Centauri often erupts huge flares, which are much stronger than the flares of the sun. Perhaps the thick atmosphere on Proxima Centauri b is to resist the occurrence of flares. And only with such a thick atmosphere can life be born on Proxima Centauri b." Everyone looked at each other. Gao Cheng smiled and said, "Fred, your speculation is based on the premise that there is life on Proxima Centauri b." Chen Yuan said, "No matter what the reason is, we will know when we go over there." At this moment, the battleship started and headed for Proxima Centauri b. The battleship reached its maximum speed and soon arrived at Proxima Centauri b. At a close distance, you can see this planet more clearly. This planet is about the same size as the Earth. The surging atmosphere on the surface is very thick, just as observed before, and the surface of the planet cannot be seen at all. "Let's go around and see." Chen Yuan thought for a while and said, "It's an unknown planet, and we don't even know whether there are living things. It's always right to be careful." The warship began to move around Proxima b and soon arrived above the Terminator. This place was still covered by a thick atmosphere, and then there was the dark side. This side was just like the back of the moon, dark. The atmosphere condensed here and became thin, and the undulating mountains on the surface of the planet could be vaguely seen. After a circle, nothing was found. Chen Yuan looked at Gao Cheng and asked, "Academician Gao, should we land directly now, or send out carrier-based aircraft for observation?" Gao Cheng and many scientists looked at each other and said, "Captain Chen, it's up to you to decide." "Then let's send out carrier-based aircraft to explore the surface first," Chen Yuan said. It would be more appropriate to use carrier-based aircraft for detection. At that moment, the order was issued, and a carrier-based aircraft rushed out of the warship and went to the atmosphere. The bridge also saw the picture of the carrier-based aircraft in real time. The carrier-based aircraft continued to land and passed through the thick atmosphere. In the atmosphere, it rolled unsteadily, like clouds. There are cumulonimbus clouds. There must be water. Someone said excitedly. Soon, the carrier-based aircraft penetrated the atmosphere, and the land below appeared in front of everyone. It was a red world, like a wind-eroded landform, with undulating mountains at a glance. The temperature is very low, -26 degrees. The driver's voice came out. There is wind. The altitude is about 20,000 meters now. I'm landing, and the temperature is rising. Go to the twilight zone. Chen Yuan said. The location chosen by the carrier-based aircraft is near the twilight zone. The carrier-based aircraft nodded, turned around, and headed for the twilight zone. The speed was very fast, and it approached the twilight zone in an instant. Forest, it's a forest. At this moment, the driver exclaimed. And everyone also clearly saw that at the border of the mountains ahead, patches of green forests appeared. In an instant, everyone was excited. The appearance of the forest represents the possibility of life. Chapter 455, Attack from the ground. The carrier-based aircraft slightly raised its altitude and slowed down. It could be clearly seen that the forest was distributed in a strip, extending infinitely to both sides. The width was not small, and it was nearly 100 kilometers in visual view. The rocks, the forest, and the dark and frozen world in the distance were clearly defined, as if an invisible barrier separated everything. A magical world. Gao Cheng and others looked excited. The discovery of the forest was a huge discovery. From a certain perspective, vegetation was also a kind of life. What about the air content? Chen Yuan asked calmly. The driver glanced at the data and said, the oxygen content is 19.08%, the nitrogen content is 79%, and the rest is carbon dioxide and rare gases. The gravity is about 20% less than that of the Earth. By the way, a large number of radioactive particles were detected in the air, and the index reached 415 rad. Chen Yuan's face changed slightly, and he frowned and said, such strong radiation. Gao Cheng also frowned and said, 415 rad. If the human body is exposed to this kind of radiation environment, there is at least a 40% chance of death. And if it is exposed for a long time, the impact will be huge. Someone said, with such high radiation, won't there be any life that can survive? Gao Cheng shook his head and said, it's different. We can't speculate on the situation of other civilizations, based on the environment of our Earth and the tolerance of human beings. Life born in this environment must have the ability to withstand strong radiation. Many scientists nodded. Gao Cheng continued, now we can basically confirm that there is life here. The birth of plants is not comparable to discovering a planet with water and giving birth to single-celled organisms. There are forests, atmospheric movement, and even cumulonimbus clouds, and even oxygen, carbon dioxide and other ingredients, which completely constitute the conditions for the birth of life. I just don't know what kind of life is born, and whether it has formed its own civilization system. There is a group of animals, and they develop intelligent creatures, and create their own civilization, which is a completely different concept. But I'm more inclined to believe that intelligent creatures can be born. The conditions here are too suitable, and we all know that red dwarfs have a longer lifespan. In billions of years, it is absolutely possible for intelligent creatures to be born and create their own civilization. Many scientists looked at each other and basically agreed with Gao Cheng's speculation. Chen Yuan next to him smiled and said, but even if a civilization is born, it is estimated that it will not be too strong. If it is a powerful civilization, it should have discovered us when we just appeared. If a second-level civilization is developed, even a first-level civilization like the Earth once was, its size should have left the planet and looked into the deep space of the universe. As everyone was talking, at this moment, the driver suddenly pulled up. Something attacked me, it seems. It seems to be a spear. The driver said hurriedly. Everyone was startled and looked at the screen quickly. Chen Yuan also hurriedly said, "Be careful, take off, and keep an eye on it." In the video, the pilot increased the distance, and the camera quickly swept across the forest below, but the forest was dense and nothing was found. The previous attack did not occur again. "Continue, circle the planet," Chen Yuan said. The pilot slightly accelerated and searched along the forest belt. After a few minutes, he had circled the forest belt and returned to the starting point. There was no development, just dense forests. There were also some changes in the terrain along the way, such as rocks spreading into the forest, forming towering mountains. But no city was seen, nor any signs of civilization. Such a result was obviously different from Gao Cheng's previous speculation. Gao Cheng hesitated for a moment and said, "Captain Chen, I'm afraid this won't work. We need to go down and take a look under the forest. I see that these trees are very tall, probably no less than 50 or 60 meters, which means there is a lot of space under the forest. Of course, there are definitely risks in doing this, and you have to consider the details." Chen Yuan thought for a moment and said to the pilot, "Turn on the energy shield, descend, fly close to the forest, slow down, and observe carefully." "Okay." The pilot immediately lowered the altitude and came to the top of the forest tree. At this height, through the dense treetops, you can barely see the situation below the forest, but the line of sight is still very obstructed. Chen Yuan said, "Observe it this way first. If you still haven't found anything, then send out the mecha and go directly to the ground. However, the mecha has no energy shield and will take certain risks, so don't send it out again if it doesn't work." Gao Cheng nodded, but after observing for a while, he still didn't find anything. Gao Cheng Dao said, "The light intensity of Proxima b is not as strong as that of the sun, and the atmosphere is thicker, but it is exposed all year round, and the gravity is smaller than that of the Earth, so the vegetation here has become very large, often 50 or 60 meters. At such a high distance, you can't see the ground at all. The smaller the gravity, the less restricted the vegetation is, and the taller it will grow." At this moment, dozens of spears were projected upward from the treetops in front of them, incredibly fast. The driver just saw that these spears had already pierced the energy shield, and an even more magical scene appeared. The spears pierced the energy shield and actually splashed some bright light. It was not the light caused by the impact of the object on the energy shield and the fluctuation of the energy shield, but the light emitted by the spears themselves. The driver was startled and looked down quickly, but he could not see anything. "We were attacked by spears, no doubt about it. They were man-made spears. There must be someone down there. Command, what should we do now? Should we fight back?" "No, the energy shield. The energy shield has dropped a lot, by 26%. This value is too high," the driver exclaimed again. Under normal circumstances, when encountering enemy carrier-based aircraft, a round of attack would only reduce the defense efficiency by this much. But these dozen spears actually caused so much damage, which is simply unbelievable. Chen Yuan said without hesitation, "Go down, find the enemy, and attack immediately. In fact, at this time, the best way is to pull up and directly fire a round of salvos to cover a wave of justice." But the energy shield can still support a few rounds of attacks, and Chen Yuan wants to know what the enemy is. The driver didn't waste any words and directly lowered the altitude. The energy shield forcibly supported the treetops, and no matter how thick the branches were, they broke one after another, and the situation below was also exposed. The driver had not noticed any enemies yet, but the camera of the carrier-based aircraft, under the control of artificial intelligence, found the target at the first time. On the ground, a light blue figure nearly 2 meters tall jumped into a hole with a diameter of more than 1 meter. Although it was only a flash, the camera still captured this scene accurately. Chapter 456, Intelligent Civilization. The footage captured by the carrier-based aircraft was also transmitted back to the warship as soon as possible. Freeze. Play frame by frame. The image of this creature also became clear. First of all, this is a humanoid creature. Secondly, it is wearing clothes. And it is obviously a piece of fabric clothes, not just a piece of animal skin wrapped around the body as clothes. Judging from the shape, it is a separate piece of clothing, with a top, pants, shoes, and even some decorations. Then there are hands and feet, but not 3 heads and 6 arms. But one thing is very special. The skin of this humanoid creature is light blue, and it looks a little transparent, showing an abnormal state. It has 5 senses, eyes, nose, and ears, and is not much different from humans. In the picture, carrier-based aircraft kept landing, crushing several large trees and opening up a circular open space. Everyone noticed that there were large and small caves on the ground. Command center, the enemy seems to have gone underground. Do you want to attack? The driver asked. Chen Yuan said, stand by. After speaking, he looked at Gao Cheng and others and asked, Academician Gao, what do you think? Gao Cheng and others looked a little excited. Gao Cheng pointed at the frozen image of the humanoid creature and said, yes, this is definitely an intelligent creature, and it must have formed its own civilization. Look at his clothes. They are very fine, and they must be woven. This is definitely not a primary civilization. Everyone nodded. A piece of clothing, especially one made of fine fabric, has a high technological content. At least you have to find the right raw materials, and then you have to invent a weaving machine or something. From this perspective, the technological level of this civilization will not be very low, so low that it is ignorant. Then there are their life characteristics. Gao Cheng crossed his arms and analyzed. Human form. I remember what Mr. Zhou said. When we discovered aliens, and discussed why aliens are also human form, Mr. Zhou said that natural selection should have convergence. Why did the ape man come down from the tree and become a human millions of years ago? It must be that nature made a choice and determined that the human form is the most suitable life form. As for those aliens with special forms, it is also due to different environments. Proxima b has a similar environment to our Earth, so it is not surprising that human-shaped creatures were born. Everyone nodded and agreed with Gao Cheng's statement. As for some other characteristics, it may be related to the special environment of Proxima b. For example, the light blue skin may be due to special cells that can resist strong radiation, so it appears light blue. And their skin is somewhat transparent, which may also be related to strong radiation exposure, causing some specific mutations. Having said this, Gao Cheng looked at Chen Yuan and said, Captain Chen, I think their civilization may be built underground. Underground? Chen Yuan was stunned. Fred's eyes lit up and he said, it's possible. Think about it. Proxima Centauri is a flare star, and flares often erupt. Once a flare erupts, first of all, the radiation on the surface of the planet will become very strong. Plants and organisms are different. Plants can withstand strong radiation, but animals can't. Then their only choice is to build their own civilization underground and use the ground to resist the eruption of flares. Gao Cheng nodded and said, I think so too. They have found the most suitable way of life for themselves over the long years. These caves may be the connecting passages between their underground buildings and the ground. Captain Chen, I think we need to go underground, and have direct contact with them to find out their civilization. Chen Yuan smiled and said, you are all experts. I will listen to you. This time, Chen Yuan is responsible for military operations and ensuring the safety of the operation, and the real decision making depends on Gao Cheng and others. After thinking about it, Chen Yuan said, then send some mechas down and control them with intelligent programs to avoid danger. Zhou and Yuan can also be controlled by intelligent programs and become unmanned mechas. Gao Cheng nodded and said, by the way, report our discovery to Earth as soon as possible. It will be very troublesome to transmit the message due to the gravity zone. After a pause, Gao Cheng seemed to have thought of something. He slapped his forehead and said, I was confused. If we transmit the message directly back through the gravity zone, it may take several months for the message to reach Earth. But we can directly jump back through space. It only takes a few minutes to jump back and forth, which is much faster than transmitting the message directly. Chen Yuan's eyes also lit up and said, yes, this is a good idea. Why didn't I think of it before? Gao Cheng's mind opened up at once, and he said, in this way, we will choose an area on this side of the mountain and build a small base first. Everything is ready. Then I and some people will stay behind to command the underground and the direct contact with this civilization. Captain Chen, you will return to the solar system first and report our findings. or you can wait a while. Let's talk about it after we explore the underground. Chen Yuan nodded repeatedly and said, then I will arrange for people to build a base in the mountain area now. A lot of supplies were prepared on the warship, so a base could be built directly. If there was a base, no matter how strong the radiation was, there was nothing to fear. At that moment, several Kunpengs set off from the warships and transported a large amount of supplies to the surface of the planet. At the same time, a total of 5 unmanned Zuanians, after penetrating the atmosphere, immediately went to the location of the carrier-based aircraft for exploration. The 5 Zuanians soon arrived at the location of the carrier-based aircraft. The carrier-based aircraft took off and alerted the surroundings, while the 5 Zuanians landed on the ground. There was almost no vegetation on the ground. Such tall trees and dense bushes almost completely blocked the sunlight, so it was normal that there was little vegetation. The humus layer on the ground was not thick. The climate in this area of the twilight line was suitable, about 10 degrees Celsius, and there was sunshine all year round, so the vegetation here should be evergreen vegetation. Although there were fallen leaves, the number of fallen leaves was very small. The 5 Zuanians searched for a while and found the second cave only after reaching a place 300 meters away. Compared to the previous cave, this one is smaller. Upon closer inspection, the cave slopes downward at a 45-degree angle, and steps have been dug on the bottom side for people to step on. Moreover, only at the ground exit, the opening is narrowed to a diameter of about 1 meter, which allows people to quickly get out. However, 1 or 2 meters down, the cave is much wider, with a diameter of nearly 4 meters. In this way, even in a tilted cave, people can walk upright. The cave is very deep and there is no light. The searchlight of Zuanian shines a dazzling light, illuminating the entire cave. But the next moment, after it was illuminated, a spear was thrown out at an incredible speed. Due to its small cross-sectional area, it was too late when it was discovered, and it pierced Zuanian's head in a flash. Chapter 457 Flare Eruption. The moment the spear pierced Zuanian's head, the tip of the spear seemed to have an energy explosion, creating a considerable impact force. The mecha's head tilted back slightly, but it was not a big problem. Zuanian's mecha is still very strong. Even modern armor-piercing bullets cannot penetrate it, let alone a spear. But the spear in front of him doesn't seem to be an ordinary spear. Zuanian reached out and grabbed the spear nailed on the face armor, holding it in his hand to examine it. The spear is yellow-brown in color, showing a unique wood texture of vegetation, and it is almost jade-like, with a lustrous luster. The top and tail of the spear are gradient black, and the overall length reaches 1.5 meters. One side is sharp and the other side is thick. The whole is like a cone. Overall, it looks like an enlarged cactus thorn. And just now, under the illumination of the searchlight, a blue figure flashed by at the bottom of the cave. But now it is gone. Zuanian looked down and found that the cave had a bottom and was about 40 meters deep. Shall we go in now? Chen Yuan asked in the warship. Gao Cheng frowned and said, did you notice that this spear seemed to explode when it attacked the target? A scientist nodded quickly and said, I noticed it too. It did when attacking the energy shield before, and it also did when attacking the mecha now. Moreover, when attacking the mecha, the energy explosion seemed to be more powerful. It feels like a form of energy. From the perspective of another Zuanian, the face of the attacked Zuanian showed some microporous changes, and the color of the armor also changed. A physics expert said, why do I feel that this impact is like a radiation impact? You see, there are many micropores on the surface of the armor, which spread out from the impact point to the periphery and gradually decrease, as if it was eroded by high-intensity particles. As you all know, radiation is a high-speed particle flow. The ball of energy you said is a group of radioactive sources which burst out with a super high radiation impact in an instant. Didn't the carrier-based aircraft say before that the energy shield was reduced very quickly? The energy shield is wrapped with a magnetic field. The strong radiation impacts the magnetic field, causing the magnetic field to be disordered and a large amount of energy leaked, so the energy intensity is reduced very quickly. Gao Cheng nodded and said, this spear is obviously these creatures. Well, let's call them the centaurs for the time being. They threw it, so where did this ball of energy come from? Is it the energy contained in the spear itself? It shouldn't be. This spear seems to be made of naturally formed wood, such as leaves of vegetation or tree cores. It is impossible for it to contain strong radiation and burst out in an instant. In that case, the only explanation is that this ball of energy comes from the protosins who are throwing spears. They may have mastered a method to emit radiation sources or something. Chen Yuan did not know whether to laugh or cry and said, "Why does this sound like Kigan?" Gao Cheng's eyes lit up and said, "Yes, it's Kigan. What do you think is the case? Due to the high radiation on this planet, over the long years, the protosins have not only evolved the ability to resist radiation, but they have also evolved a method to convert radiation. After all, radiation is not a good thing. If carbon-based life absorbs too much, there will definitely be problems. So they have evolved an ability to store the absorbed radiation. Well, for example, they have evolved a special organ. In the martial arts novels of our country Z, don't we always talk about ki sinking into the danshan? The true ki is stored in the danshan. Maybe they have evolved a similar organ that specializes in storing absorbed radiation. Then these stored radiations can burst out and become a means of attack." Everyone looked at each other. Chen Yuan also smiled bitterly and said, "Academician Gao, your conjecture is really too sci-fi." Gao Cheng laughed and said, "Bold conjectures, careful verification." Chen Yuan nodded and said, "What should we do now? Go down?" "Of course we have to go down. If we don't go down, how can we know their situation?" Chen Yuan stopped talking nonsense and prepared to order the mecha to enter the cave. At this time, the combat personnel under the bridge suddenly said, "Captain, a flare was detected on the red dwarf star." "What?" Chen Yuan was startled. Everyone also turned their heads to look at Proxima in the distance. They saw that the slightly dim Proxima in the distance was gradually becoming brighter, especially some specific areas on it, which became brighter. Fred frowned and said, "The only bad thing about red dwarfs is that they can easily explode with flares. According to our observations, when Proxima Centauri explodes with flares, its brightness can increase by up to 68 times, and its intensity is also amazing. It is highly radiated, and various particles will fill the entire area, causing a huge impact on Proxima b." As he spoke, Proxima Centauri began to become extremely bright, and the monitoring system on the battleship also issued an early warning sound. The battleship's energy shield was hit by a large number of particles. However, the problem was not big. With the power of the interstellar battleship, it can still easily withstand the flare. Even the porthole glass of the bridge automatically adjusted to reduce the brightness. At this time, the flare had already affected Proxima b. At this moment, it was as if a super strong wind blew from Proxima Centauri, the wind of radiation and the wind of particles. It can be clearly seen that the thick atmosphere of Proxima Centauri was forcibly blown away. However, the atmosphere did not escape, but was blown to the back of the planet along the surface of the planet like a peeled banana. Proxima b also seemed to have its veil lifted in an instant, and the surface of the planet became clearly visible. "Shocking." Chen Yuan murmured. "Yeah, it's like a force that can move mountains and seas." Gao Cheng nodded. "The atmosphere of a planet was blown away in front of you. That feeling is not just ordinary shocking." Flares continued to erupt, and the first to be hit was the side facing Proxima Centauri. The surface temperature rose sharply, as if the originally gloomy sky suddenly became extremely hot. The 3 Kunpengs that had landed in the mountains were also impacted, but the problem was not big, and they could withstand it. The carrier-based aircraft and mechas in the forest area can also support it. But at this time, the picture sent back by the carrier-based aircraft showed that the forests impacted by the flare were not only not weathered by the impact, but seemed to come alive in an instant. Every plant seemed to glow, and the broad leaves revealed the veins, which seemed to glow, and the thick trunks actually had spider web-like veins, as if they were the nutrient transmission veins of the bark. And the battleship observed an even more shocking scene. A large number of Proxima people rushed out of the forest. They were like a large army, rushing out from the edge of the forest, and rushing to the mountainous area. They were so dense that you couldn't see the end of the team at a glance. It seemed that these Proxima people had been hiding in the forest and now suddenly ran out. Moreover, these Proxima people ran and shuttled between the mountains. Some of them stopped, raised their hands, and faced Proxima. Under the impact of the flare, these Proxima people became more transparent and glowed. It was as if they were bathed in the light of God. Millions of Proxima people. This scene shocked everyone on the battleship. Chapter 458 Communication. On the battleship, everyone was stunned. Gao Cheng came back to his senses and said excitedly, they can actually absorb the power of radiation, and they can also evolve it into a means of attack. This is amazing. Gao Cheng's previous speculation turned out to be correct. Everyone was silent, watching the Proxima people below absorbing radiation. As time passed, the light on these Proxima people became stronger and stronger, and everyone saw that some young people had evacuated towards the forest, as if they could not absorb too much radiation because of their age. It's really a big world, full of wonders. Gao Cheng sighed again. Everyone nodded one after another. The scene in front of them completely overturned their cognition. Chen Yuan thought for a while and said, Academician Gao, this is a good opportunity. Do you want to send someone to have direct contact with them? They are looking for the Proxima people. Now that they have all run out, it is the best opportunity to contact them. Gao Cheng thought for a while, nodded and said, you can give it a try. In fact, the previous conflict with the Proxima Centauri or the direct entry into their underground territory is also an offense. Our mission is to colonize. Sooner or later, we will have to contact them. If we can use peaceful means, that would be the best. Let's contact them first. Chen Yuan nodded and immediately ordered the 4 Zuanians in the forest to take action. At this time, Gao Cheng stopped Chen Yuan again and said, wait a minute, find their leaders. With their technological level, they must have formed a unique social system. If we want to find them, we should find their top leaders. Chen Yuan nodded and let the Zuanian fly around Proxima Centauri to find the target. However, after a circle, there was no obvious discovery. These Proxima Centauri rushed out and began to absorb radiation energy at random. There was no obvious class differentiation or anything. Here, Gao Cheng suddenly pointed at a scene, stopped the Zuanian, and said, look here, I just noticed that these adult Proxima people seem to be able to absorb different amounts of radiation energy. Maybe the stronger the body, the more radiation they can absorb, so the particle light around their bodies is brighter. Look here, this person has the brightest light, and the people around him also have strong light. They should at least be the strongest among the Proxima people. In a social group, the social status of the strong must not be low. Chen Yuan nodded and immediately ordered 4 Zuanians to land. In this area, within a vertical range of tens of thousands of meters, there are no less than tens of thousands of Proxima people loosely gathered, and the group of people Gao Cheng found only has more than 40 people, occupying an area of hundreds of meters. 4 Zuanians fell from the sky and landed directly on the heads of this group of people. The billion people were dressed differently, and their body shapes and appearances were quite different. They also had various decorations on their bodies. Gao Cheng found that the one with the brightest light was a 2-meter tall, strong-bodied man. According to human speculation on age, he should be in his prime, about 30 years old. This man was wearing a black suit that looked like a leather half-body armor. His facial features were tough, and he was very alert. 4 Zuanians fell from the sky and quickly opened their eyes and looked over. The 4 Zuanians were suspended 1 meter above the ground. The red metal mechas gave people an inexplicable pressure. More than 40 people, as well as the billion people around them, all noticed the appearance of the Zuanians and were alarmed. Especially these more than 40 people. They instantly gathered around the man in leather armor, as if they were the guards of the man in leather armor, protecting him at the moment. Looking at the camera, the mouths of these billion people were moving, and they should be talking. The billion people did not take any further action, but they were all very alert, because they were facing something unknown. On the battleship, Chen Yuan looked at Gao Cheng and asked, Academician Gao, will we communicate according to the previous plan? Gao Cheng nodded. When they came here, everyone also studied what kind of communication method should be adopted, and finally discussed several plans, and plan number 1 was to communicate directly with video images. On the surface of the planet, a Zuanian came forward, and its eyes projected the light of holographic projection. In the environment of strong radiation, the holographic projection has some impact, but the problem is not big. Then a picture began to play. First, it was the picture of Proxima b, and then the picture of the entire surface of the planet was added. It can be seen that these Proxima people were very shocked to be able to play pictures out of thin air, especially the pictures played, and they also showed surprised expressions, but they should understand that the video is the planet they are on. The man in leather armor separated the guards, walked forward a little, and said something loudly. "Record it," Gao Cheng said hurriedly. Among the technologies given by the Oma civilization, there is the technology of translators. The Oma civilization is also very generous. They directly shared their database with humans. In this database, there are 439 languages and text information of various civilizations that the Oma civilization has come into contact with. In this way, if humans encounter unknown civilizations in the future, they can directly use the language information in the database for comparison and then communicate. I compared it, but it is not in the database, and there is no similar language system. The voice of the battleship's intelligent program sounded. Some civilizations frequently communicate with other civilizations, form alliances with each other, and over a long period of time, they will also form a common language in a region, and even the languages are inherited from the same source, and are in the same system. It's normal, just record it. He probably meant to ask who we are. Gao Cheng didn't care. The Proxima people obviously didn't leave the planet, and had no contact with foreign civilizations. It was normal that the language was not recorded. On the planet, Zhou Yang continued to play the picture. The picture began to zoom out, and the camera continued to rise from the surface of Proxima b, passed through the atmosphere, and came to the outside of the planet. The entire Proxima b was in full view, and then the camera shifted to present the entire Proxima system. This scene obviously shocked the Proxima people present. They had never set foot in space, so they obviously didn't know that Proxima b was a sphere. The sun they saw every day was a red sphere or something. This feeling was like being in the feudal era, when people only knew that the sky was round and the earth was square. Suddenly, a group of aliens came and told you what the earth was like and what the solar system was like. I'm afraid all three views would be overturned. The man in leather armor had his eyes wide open, with disbelief written all over his face, and the Proxima people around him were also whispering and talking. At this time, the video turned and projected the image of the Earthlings. The image of the man was still Gao Cheng. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459 Underground City. The appearance of human images made the expressions of the other side's neighbor people more alert. Then, in the video, some scenes expressing peace began to play. For example, using real-time calculations to simulate the image of the neighbor people, Gao Cheng shook hands with the neighbor people, and then sat in the house to communicate and enjoy food together. I don't know if these pictures express our goodwill. Gao Cheng sighed. It can't be said that this is the first time for humans to communicate with an unknown civilization, but it is the first time to take the initiative to communicate with an ignorant civilization. There is no experience to continue, so we can only try. However, it seems that the other party also seems to understand and said something, but Gao Cheng shook his head, indicating that he didn't understand. The man in leather armor returned to the crowd, seemed to be communicating something, and then walked back and gestured some movements. But I still couldn't understand it. Although the gestures are the same, the meanings of the gestures developed by each civilization may be completely different. The man in leather armor pointed to the forest in the distance, pulled another neighbor over, walked, and the neighbor who was pulled over also followed. Gao Cheng finally understood and said, he wants us to follow him. After exchanging a glance with everyone, Gao Cheng said, then let's go and have a look. Everyone nodded, since they had to communicate anyway. At that moment, the four Zhuanyuans began to move and followed the man in leather armor. The crowd parted, and it was obvious that the man in leather armor had a high status, while more people were pointing at the Zhuang. Soon, they arrived in the forest. Under the strong radiation, the forest at this time was like a dreamy fairy tale world, with glowing plants everywhere. The man in leather armor led the Zhuang all the way to a slope. There was a stone door in front of the slope, which was now open. The man in leather armor did not hesitate, and walked in directly. The Zhuang followed in. From the camera, it can be seen that the stone cave is a relatively spacious space, with wooden pillars supporting the entire space, and then deep inside, there is a staircase that slopes downward, which is also very spacious. It can be seen that this should be a large and formal exit, which is completely different from the cave specifications found before. Zhuang followed the man in leather armor, and went down the stairs. It descended nearly 60 meters, before reaching the bottom. Then there was a straight passage in front of it. It could be seen that it was built with square stones for reinforcement. The passage was lit with lamps, which was very bright. There was also light coming from the front. Soon, Zhuang arrived at the end of the passage. The front suddenly opened up, and an extremely spacious underground world appeared in front of everyone. So spectacular. So shocking. Everyone present exclaimed. The location where Zhuang appeared was located in the middle and high part of the entire space. Upward, there was still a distance of 30 meters from the top, and downward, there was at least 50 to 60 meters. In other words, this is a space with a height of 90 meters. Not only high, but also large. Looking over, there was no end at all. Did they hollow out the entire Twilight Zone? Chen Yuan asked in surprise. It was observed before that the entire Twilight Zone is hundreds of kilometers wide. Their underground world cannot be seen at a glance. Could it be that wide? I didn't see any tall buildings. They were all stone buildings and wooden buildings, but there were already many complicated decorative shapes, which looked like the feudal era. Gao Cheng said. The underground world in front of him was very large, east, west, south, and north, and there was no end in sight. It also formed a city-like building complex. Outside the building complex, there was an open area, and it seemed that some things were planted, and even rivers were dug out. The whole world was not dark, because it was underground, but very bright. The reason was the pillars. The Billion people invented a method. There were a large number of stone pillars in the entire space. There was one stone pillar almost every few hundred meters, and the diameter was about 10 meters. In addition to supporting the structure of the entire space, these stone pillars also played a role in lighting. There is a special structure near the top of the stone pillar. A groove about 1 meter wide is dug on the stone pillar. A bonfire is lit in the groove. At the same time, some smooth mirrors of unknown material are attached to the inner wall of the groove. In this way, the bonfire will illuminate the surrounding area under the reflection of the mirror. And because there are so many stone pillars around, and each stone pillar has a similar structure, it also forms the effect of a shadowless lamp, and there will be no blind spots of light. In this way, the whole space becomes as bright as day. Magical. Someone exclaimed. Yes, but where will the oxygen come from if they keep burning like this? The consumption of raw materials must be incredible. Burning wood alone should not be enough, and the vegetation on their planet is only in the Twilight Zone. Even if they have formed coal or even energy sources such as oil, the quantity should not be too much. Gao Cheng said, oxygen can be obtained by digging vents. As for raw materials, the situation on each planet is different. They should have their own unique raw materials. Besides, they must need to rest, and they are not burning all the time. At this point, Gao Cheng was puzzled and asked, logically speaking, since they have evolved the ability to withstand strong radiation and even directly absorb radiation, they can survive on the ground. When these words came out, everyone frowned. Yes, it's totally irrational. Could it be because of the temperature? Except for the Twilight Zone, the temperature at both poles is extremely low. The backlit side is almost at absolute zero, and the temperature on the light-facing side is not high, about 20 to 30 degrees below zero. Then you can live in the forest. The difficulty of digging underground space is definitely much greater than building a city in the forest. Gao Cheng waved his hand, indicating that everyone didn't have to guess, and said, let's ask them these questions directly. There was another wide staircase sloping downward in front of the passage, leading all the way to the ground. The man in leather armor walked to the ground with Zhou Yang. There was an open area around, and not far in front was a group of buildings. The buildings were not high, generally about 2 or 3 stories high, and there were obvious signs of planning. For example, opposite the staircase, there was a straight and wide road that led directly to a palace-style building a few kilometers away. The ground was paved with stone bricks, and shops could be seen on both sides of the road. And there were a lot of people, not what Zhou Yang and others thought. All the neighbors ran outside to absorb radiation. These people were doing business at this time. When they saw the Zhou Yang, they all showed shocked expressions. But when they saw the man in leather armor, they all showed fearful expressions and did not approach. Chapter 460 Establishing Communication. Inside the warship, Zhou Yang and others were a little excited. Everything in front of them truly showed the civilization of the billion people. Business seems to be prosperous. Overall, it is roughly at the level of our feudal era in Country Z. All the scenes in front of him made Zhou Yang feel like he was watching a costume drama. And it looked very prosperous. Hey, have you noticed that there seem to be some strange signs of corrosion on their buildings? Someone suddenly pointed at the buildings in the picture and said. His words attracted everyone's attention. After a careful inspection, Zhou Yang nodded and said, "It's true. It seems to have been corroded by strong acid, and the stone is different. It seems to have been renovated, and it's not an isolated case. There are many such signs. Also, have you noticed that the skin of these billion people who stayed underground is also blue, but unlike those billion people outside, their bodies have become transparent, which makes them look more normal." After a pause, Zhou Yang said, "It seems to be 2 different species." Everyone nodded, and they all discovered it. The more contact, the more questions there are, but according to Zhou Yang, after establishing communication with a billion people, these problems will be solved. Soon, Zhou Yang arrived in front of the palace in the deepest part. The palace was built in a very grand manner, with tall outer palace walls, a building structure similar to the city gate tower, and many decorative paintings on it. Zhou Yang can scan it after seeing it. Especially these decorative paintings. When drawn, they are definitely not simple decorations. They often depict some history and express something. Zhou Yang looked at the scanned decorative paintings and frowned. "Old Huang, you are an expert in humanities and history. Come and take a look at these things." Zhou Yang said. An old man came forward. His name is Huang Yangrong, pushed his glasses, and said, "Some of these paintings seem to express battles. Look at this image. It seems to be a kind of insect." Huang Yangrong pointed to an insect image that looked like a mantis and said. Zhou Yang and others also came over to check. "This bug seems to be very big. Judging from the scale, it seems to be about 5 or 6 meters high. Is it a creature from Proxima B? But we didn't find it when we checked it before. We didn't enter the forest before. We just scanned the forest. These creatures are hidden in the forest. Even if they are there, we can't find them." Huang Yangrong shook his head and said, "It may not be very high. It may be to depict the power of these bugs. We don't know their actual size. Moreover, there are many similar paintings, and they are basically the same enemies. Then can we speculate that in the history of the development of these Proxima people, there is a kind of bug that has always been their enemy, and they have fought with these bugs for a long time? You see, these pictures all depict large-scale battles, which means that the scale of the battle is not small." As everyone discussed, Zhou Yang also entered the palace. The palace was guarded by Proxima people with somewhat transparent skin. There were also some Proxima people walking around, like servants, but their skin was not transparent. Zhou Yang said, "I feel that there may be 2 types of billion people. One type is the warriors in society, responsible for fighting. Their skin is transparent and can absorb radiation. Let's call them billion people A. The rest are some ordinary billion people who engage in ordinary social activities. Let's call them billion people B. This is how we distinguish them." Everyone nodded. They also clearly found the difference between the 2 types of billion people. And in the ancient tribal groups, it is normal for a group of people to be responsible for fighting. The man in leather armor went deeper and brought the 4 Zhou Yangs to a hall. There was some furniture in the hall, which looked relatively tall and solemn. It should be an important place. The man in leather armor made some gestures, and Gao Cheng understood some of them. He wanted them to wait here. After waiting for about a minute, some people appeared. The leader was a villain person wearing softer and brighter fabrics. He looked very old and had many wrinkles on his face. After seeing the 4 Zuanians, he showed a surprised expression. This should be the leader of their city, or the emperor, Gao Cheng said. It was obvious that the old villain was of high status. The old villain sat down surrounded by the crowd, then raised his hand and pointed at the seats on both sides. Zuanian followed suit and sat down. Then there was nothing else. The two sides stared at each other, unable to communicate. It was Zuanian that made the first sound. The method was very simple. Make a sound, and then use graphics to express the meaning. For example, make the pronunciation of the hand, then project a human and point to your right hand. This form of expression was more direct. The villain on the opposite side quickly understood and knew that it was communicating with them. The old villain thought for a while and said something to the many villain behind him. Then these villain came forward one after another, as if remembering. Seeing this, Gao Cheng said with some relief, now we have started to communicate. The next step is to wait, slowly understand their language, and then have in-depth communication. Everyone nodded. The villain seemed to still have the idea of communicating, so the whole thing went smoothly. At this time, the flare from Proxima Centauri slowly began to converge. The flare this time was not very large, so it did not last long. On the surface of the planet, the Proxima people who absorbed radiation also began to evacuate to the forest. Gao Cheng said, then according to the plan we agreed on before, we will first set up a camp in the rocky area. I and some people will stay to communicate with the Proxima people, and Captain Chen, you will go back to Earth and report our current findings and related information. Chen Yuan nodded in agreement. At this moment, the supplies and many soldiers left the warship and headed for Proxima B. Gao Cheng and others, who were on a Kunpeng, did not leave immediately after leaving the warship. In the distance, the warship had already started the space jump and entered the space channel. In theory, they should appear soon. Gao Cheng said with a smile. Sure enough, only 10 seconds later, the space channel appeared again, and 2 warships appeared one after another. Haha, it's here, I guessed right, right? Let's go. We've only been there for a while, but for Captain Chen and his crew, it may have been several days. I have to say, this gravity zone is really amazing, and I don't know how it was formed. Gao Cheng smiled and sighed, and ordered the Kunpeng to return. Chen Yuan should have brought Zhou Yang's next instructions. Chapter 461, Putting the Strong Ones in Their Position. Zhou Yang didn't expect that Gao Cheng and his team would return to Earth just 11 days after leaving. Zhou Yang met Chen Yuan at the first opportunity. I see, I didn't expect this. After hearing the reason for Chen Yuan's return, Zhou Yang smiled bitterly, and then he realized that in addition to direct communication, the best way to contact them was to jump back directly through space. Chen Yuan smiled honestly, but didn't dare to laugh at Zhou Yang's mistake. Then have you discovered civilization? Zhou Yang asked. When Chen Yuan mentioned the discovery, he was excited and nodded quickly. He told Zhou Yang about the relevant video materials and all the discoveries. After listening, Zhou Yang was also incredible. Absorbing radiation, this is really a world full of wonders. Zhou Yang sighed. Chen Yuan nodded and said, we were really shocked when we saw them rushing out of the forest and absorbing the radiation power for the first time. Zhou Yang did not receive the system prompt to complete the main task, which means that the colonization is not successful at all. Gao Cheng's strategy is correct. It is necessary to contact the Bilin people first and understand their situation and civilization. Zhou Yang said. But, Zhou Yang's words took a turn, and Chen Yuan's heart skipped a beat. He quickly put away his smile and listened to Zhou Yang's instructions. Zhou Yang said, first of all, you must understand that our goal is colonization, and from a historical perspective, it is almost impossible to have harmony in colonization. This is a universe that believes in the law of the jungle. Facing an unknown civilization, it is okay to express kindness, but you must also show your muscles. Aren't they in an era of quasi-feudal society? Then the premise of contacting them is to let them know how powerful we are. It's just a matter of moving our fingers to destroy them. We are the strong ones. We must put ourselves in the right position. The strong can express kindness, but that is just kindness. Chen Yuan's heart trembled. These words from Zhou Yang's mouth actually made him feel a faint murderous aura. Zhou Yang glanced at Chen Yuan and said, "Don't think I'm cold-blooded and ruthless. Everything I do is for us humans." As for the reason, Zhou Yang didn't say anything else. But Chen Yuan also immediately understood that the so-called reason was not something he could know. "Sir, I understand." Chen Yuan immediately saluted to show that he knew. Zhou Yang nodded and said, "Secondly, there is one more thing. Hurry up and repeat my words to Gao Cheng. He is a smart man and should be able to understand what I mean. The purpose of colonization, as soon as possible, is to complete the main task and obtain the technology to build a Dyson sphere. Moreover, Zhou Yang has a vague plan for the next development in his mind. Take Proxima B, complete the main task, obtain the technical information for the construction of the Dyson sphere, and then use Proxima B as a base to see if Proxima can be used as the first test product for building a Dyson sphere." These days, Zhou Yang has also taken time to think about the Dyson sphere. The original proposer of the Dyson sphere plan was Freeman Dyson, who proposed it in 1960. Zhou Yang has also read the relevant original materials. Dyson's initial plan was to build some special satellites. The satellite supports a huge unit body. This unit body is like a solar panel, which can absorb the energy emitted by the sun, and then through the satellite, an effective energy output device is established and transmitted back to the Earth, so that the energy of the sun can be used more effectively and directly. The whole idea can be said to be whimsical, and the technical difficulties involved are unknown. After that, many scientists proposed plans such as Dyson Cloud and Dyson Shell, but they were just ideas. Zhou Yang felt that, since it was produced by the system, it would definitely not be ordinary stuff. Zhou Yang even had a bold guess that the Dyson sphere technology that the system was about to provide might be a replica of the star core. The star core itself, as a special existence formed after the collapse of a star, has the powerful energy of the star and can output energy stably and safely. It is simply the best way to utilize the energy of the star. It is also reasonable to design the Dyson sphere technology according to the star core. According to Zhou Yang's research on the star core, it is generally an outer shell and a ball. From this perspective, it is similar to the Dyson sphere. Zhou Yang guessed that this technology should be the key to building super weapons, and a powerful civilization must have super weapons. Therefore, it is right to complete the main task as soon as possible and get the relevant technology. As for why Proxima Centauri was chosen, it can't be the sun. In addition to the sun, the closest star to the Earth is Proxima Centauri. In addition, although Proxima Centauri has frequent flares, it is only a red dwarf star after all, and is much more stable than the sun. So from this perspective, Proxima Centauri is the most suitable object for building a Dyson sphere. I'll remember, Mr. Zhao. Chen Yuan nodded quickly. Zhou Yang thought for a while and said, "By the way, the decorative drawings on the buildings you found are very interesting. A kind of insect shows that the Proxima Centauri may have been enemies with this kind of insect for a long time during their long years of development. Moreover, they did not choose to build a city in the forest, but chose a more difficult method to build a city underground, which shows that there is a force that can threaten them, and this force is very likely to be insects." Looking at the black and white Proxima B in front of him, Zhou Yang tapped the table rhythmically and fell into deep thought. Chen Yuan did not dare to disturb Zhou Yang and did not dare to breathe. After a while, Zhou Yang seemed to think of something and said, "The back." Chen Yuan was stunned. Zhou Yang continued, "If there really is a kind of bug, it can't be in the forest or underground, so it can only be in the rocky area facing the star, and in the dark area on the back of the star. And I prefer the dark area on the back, because the front has to bear the frequent attacks of flares, and the environmental changes are too drastic. On the contrary, the dark area on the back is cold, but the cold is not a problem. There are many lives that can survive in extremely cold temperatures. This kind of bug can threaten the Proxima Centauri, so it will also be a threat to us in the future. You have to do one more thing, that is, to conduct a detailed exploration of the entire Proxima B, not only the front, but also the back, to eliminate any potential threats. At the same time, explore the resource conditions of Proxima b to prepare for our development of Proxima b. Chen Yuan's heart trembled. In his opinion, the Proxima Centauri who can absorb radiation is very strong. He is 2 meters tall, strong, and can burst out radiation shocks. In terms of individual strength, it can be said that it can easily kill humans in seconds. But such a powerful individual Proxima Centauri is so afraid of this kind of bug. You can imagine how terrifying these bugs are. Chapter 462 New Plan, Building a Base. In the number 2 ship, Chen Yuan said, "These are Mr. Zhao's original words and instructions." Gao Cheng fell into deep thought. The scientists present also looked at each other and discussed. "Showing off our muscles, aren't we being a little radical?" Someone whispered. But soon someone retorted, "Don't forget, we are here for colonization. Don't you understand what colonization means? And although the Millenniums are also human beings, they are not the same race as us after all. There is no need to have any mercy and kindness." That's right, and we have to understand one thing, that is, Mr. Zhao is in a different position from us, and his perspective is also different from ours. Since he asked us to do this, he must have his reasons, and we just need to do it. Everyone discussed and finally looked at Gao Cheng. Gao Cheng was the person in charge of the scientific team this time. Gao Cheng muttered. He was a smart man, and he had been doing research with Zhou Yang for quite some time. He also knew Zhou Yang well, and knew Zhou Yang's character very well. He knew that Zhou Yang himself was a very kind person, and even more a pure scholar, and had a natural aversion to politics. So according to reason, Zhou Yang should hate this kind of brutal colonial method. But since Zhou Yang asked to do this, there must be Zhou Yang's reasons. And Gao Cheng knew one thing very well, that is, Zhou Yang was very planned in doing things. He often started to lay the groundwork for what he was going to do in advance, such as developing mechas and warships. Every move was for a clear purpose. When the Earth was facing the threat of 2 major civilizations, and was in danger, Zhou Yang just started a colonization plan. Was it really just to leave a way out for mankind? Gao Cheng felt that it was not entirely true, so he felt that Zhou Yang must have a deeper intention in doing this. That's why Zhou Yang emphasized time and wanted to complete the colonization as soon as possible. Gao Cheng didn't know the reason, but it didn't prevent him from doing things completely according to Zhou Yang's ideas, and a very critical point was that he also believed in Zhou Yang. After coming to his senses, Gao Cheng said, "Mr. Zhao's instructions are very important. We will follow Mr. Zhao's instructions." "Captain Chen, didn't Mr. Zhao specially send the 3rd ship over? This way, we will have more manpower." When Chen Yuan left, Zhou Yang specially asked the 3rd ship, which had been equipped with a space jump device, to come over. He was probably worried that there would not be enough manpower here. It also shows how much Zhou Yang values the Proxima project. Gao Cheng said, "First of all, we give up the practice of building a base in the mountainous area and directly build a large base at the twilight line. This base must be large first, based on the boundary of the forest. On the one hand, we will tear down the forest and open up an area of at least 10 square kilometers. We will mine materials on the spot and build a large military base. Then, on this side of the adjacent mountainous area, we will build several helipads to park our interstellar battleships. And the location is here." Gao Cheng called up the map of Proxima and pointed to a point. It was the area where the Zhou Yang entered the underground before. That entrance should be a large main entrance. Building the base here is obviously a demonstration and a show of strength. Then Captain Li. Gao Cheng looked at a tough-looking middle-aged man opposite him. His name was Li Ziyang, and he was the captain of the number 3 ship. He said, "My idea is that the number 2 ship will land directly on the surface of the planet, and then the number 3 ship will conduct a detailed exploration of the mountainous area and the dark area of the entire planet, especially the dark area." Mr. Zhao speculated that there might be insect-like creatures that can withstand low temperatures here. This speculation makes sense. This is a potential threat. If there are none, of course it would be best, but if there are, we must find them and solve them. Li Ziyang nodded and wrote it down. After the discussion, everything began to be carried out according to the plan. The number 2 ship no longer hid and began to land directly, passing through the atmosphere that began to slowly return and landed towards the twilight line. At this time, the flare had just passed. Perhaps because of the previous incident with the 4 Zhuannians, some people were still staying in the forest and the rocky area at the edge of the forest. The number 2 ship, which was nearly 5,000 meters long, fell from the sky and soon reached a height that could be directly seen by the ground. The people below immediately noticed this huge monster falling from the sky. It was dark, like a fortress, and it was covered by a light blue energy shield. It was simply an alien. The oppressive and shocking feeling it brought to people had completely frightened the people below. The second ship kept landing, and the people below it fled in a hurry, hiding in the woods, looking at the second ship in fear. Boom. With the surging airwaves, the second ship landed on the surface of the planet. The energy shield has been retracted, otherwise the ground would have been directly pressed into a deep pit. On both sides of the warship, the main hatches were all opened, and a large number of carrier-based aircraft flew up and came to the periphery of the warship for guarding. At the same time, there were a large number of mechas that walked down the warship in groups. Gao Cheng and others also wore mechas and walked down the warship. Looking around, it was inevitable to feel novel. The oxygen in the air was suitable, but the strong radiation was not suitable for human survival, so they had to wear mechas. After the base was built, they could take off the mechas and move around in the base. Behind him, a large number of mechanical equipment and industrial robots were getting off the warship. In the distance, several Kunpeng ships that had landed in the mountains with a large amount of supplies also arrived under the escort of the escort force. More robots and machinery appeared. In the distance, in the forest, in the bushes, and on the treetops, a large number of Proxima people were hiding, looking at everything in front of them in fear. Gao Cheng sighed and said, "This scene feels like in the movies. Those prehistoric civilizations saw the alien spaceship coming and felt that the gods had come to the world." Everyone nodded, especially Huang Yangrong, an expert in humanities and history, who was even more moved. The environment of the entire Proxima B is not much different from that of the Earth, and the relevant large-scale machinery can operate normally. "Here, let's move." Gao Cheng pointed to an area in the distance and gave an order. A large number of mechas were dispatched and began to clear the area. Without any words, the mecha holding the laser gun stood over there, and the meaning was self-evident. All Proxima people quickly retreated. A quarter of an hour later, the 10-kilometer range had been cleared. Next, the relevant machinery and equipment were deployed. With the vigorous development of military technology, although all resources were mobilized to manufacture weapons, the development of civilian technology was not completely stagnant. In particular, the relevant machinery and equipment involved in large-scale projects have also been greatly developed for the needs of war. Chapter 463 Conflict. Several machines powered by particle thrusters and shaped like small flying saucers were dispatched. They flew to different locations under the control of intelligent programs without human control. After reaching the designated location, a laser was shot out from one end of the machine. The length of the laser reached 50 meters. Then the machine began to accelerate and flew quickly close to the ground. Wherever it passed, whether it was trees, grass, or even soil and rocks, it would be cut by the laser instantly. This device was jointly developed by North Industries and Caterpillar. Its main function is to quickly clear complex terrain. And not only this device, but many of the devices brought this time were basically developed by large domestic military enterprises or jointly developed with large foreign enterprises. However, in a short while, the area within a radius of 10 kilometers had been initially cleared. Then it was to push down the trees that had been cut. Of course, the machines brought also had similar equipment, but chose a more direct and rough method. Several Zhuannians took off and directly pulled a sonic boom. The air waves and strong winds rolled up by the sonic boom directly blew all the trees to the ground. The forest within a radius of 10 kilometers was cleared in an instant. This scene, especially the sonic boom of the mecha, was heard far away, and it shocked the people of the neighborhood. Then, a large number of robots were dispatched to start clearing the trees on the scene. These robots are extremely powerful and carry related devices, such as laser transmitters, which can quickly cut trees, cut trees as high as tens of meters into sections, and then directly carry a section into the rocky area and pile them in the designated location. These woods will be used as building materials to build the base. In just half an hour, with the concerted efforts of nearly 10,000 robots, all the trees on the scene have been cleared. Then, hundreds of large machines were dispatched, including crushing machines, waving huge crushing hammers, crushing some broken stones and tree stumps, and large machines for tamping the earth followed behind, and the thick tamping irons kept rising and falling to compact the ground. Behind them, there was also a road roller, to level the ground again. After these three processes, the flatness of the ground is already very good. Then, pile drivers, concrete mixers, automatic paving machines and other machines came in, and started drilling and piling, pouring, and leveling the ground. All the machines were driven by fusion power. There was not much noise during the operation, and all operations were handled by intelligent programs and supervised by humans to ensure the highest efficiency. So in just over half an hour, some areas on the site had been poured with concrete and leveled. Now they just had to wait for the concrete to dry before the next step of base foundation construction could be carried out. The whole process, in the eyes of the billion people, was like a god moving mountains and seas. In the underground palace, as early as when the second ship slowly descended, many billion people who were communicating and learning languages with the 4 Zhuang in the palace had already received the information. The faces of many billion people present all changed drastically, and they quickly gathered together and communicated quickly. The communication was interrupted, and the 4 Zhuang, before further orders, stood quietly in place, motionless. Soon, more news came, such as the appearance of a large number of carrier-based aircraft and mechas, as well as large machinery, which drove the billion people and began to cut down forests and build bases. At this moment, many billion people were not surprised, but angry, especially the billion emperor, who pointed at the 4 Zhuang and said something excitedly. Judging from his gestures and expressions, he should be cursing. Finally, the billion emperor suddenly pointed at the 4 Zhuang and said something to the man in leather armor. The man in leather armor hesitated for a moment, but still nodded, stepped out suddenly, and punched one of the Zhuang at a very fast speed. However, the man in leather armor was fast, and the Zhuang was faster. It raised its right hand like lightning, and accurately grabbed the right fist of the man in leather armor. But the next moment, the right fist of the man in leather armor suddenly burst into a ball of light, which was a radiation shock. Bang! The energy exploded, and an invisible airwave rushed out like an explosion. The palace was in a mess, and the emperor of the billion people and his followers were blown away by the airwave, and lay on the ground in embarrassment. But it was useless. The man in leather armor can control the radiation energy and use it to attack, but the impact force generated during the whole process is not worth mentioning for the mecha. According to the calculation of the mecha, the power of the explosion of the man in leather armor may be as strong as that of a 60mm mortar shell. This is already amazing. You have to know that this is the power of flesh and blood. But such an explosion is just a drizzle for the mecha. The only thing that can affect the mecha is not the explosion, but the strong radiation that bursts out, forming a high-speed particle flow in an instant. These high-speed particle flows will impact and damage the armor of the mecha. However, it is impossible to break the mecha with just one blow, and the man in leather armor has no chance to attack again. The attacked Zhuang stretched out his left hand like lightning, grabbed the throat of the man in leather armor directly, and then lifted it up. The man in leather armor felt suffocated instantly, and gritted his teeth, and attacked Zhuang with his legs. The kicks from his feet could also cause radiation shock, but it couldn't shake Zhuang at all. Zhuang also released his right hand and punched. With just one punch, the man in leather armor's neck tilted and he collapsed. But he was still breathing, so Zhuang showed mercy and didn't kill him, because it hadn't received the order to kill him. The emperor of the billion people and many of his followers showed surprised expressions, as if they didn't expect their most powerful warrior to be so vulnerable. At this time, a large number of guards rushed in from outside the palace. The emperor of the billion people pointed at the 4 Zhuang and shouted, "Which should be an attack." The guards who rushed in looked at each other and threw their spears. As Zhuang came forward, took out the double laser swords, and when the time was right, They quickly danced in front of him. The laser swords dragged out a light and shadow like a light curtain, and all the approaching spears were cut off and fell to the ground. The emperor of the billion people trembled and quickly fled in the direction of the past. The 4 Xuanyuans quickly reported the situation to Gao Cheng. Gao Cheng sighed. It was normal for the billion people to be emotional and attack them, because from their actions just now, they were undoubtedly more like invaders. However, at this point, Gao Cheng knew that he could not be indecisive, and immediately ordered, capture the emperor of the billion people, and then send out the Xuanyuan, go underground, and control their palace. Those people in the palace should be their high-ranking officials. Chapter 464 Lair. The moment they received the latest order, the 4 Xuanyuans took action, smashed through the roof of the palace, and soared into the sky. Standing in the sky, the palace below was already boiling, and a large number of guards appeared and rushed to the main hall in the center. In just a moment, the 4 Xuanyuans locked onto the group of people who were fleeing quickly behind the palace, including the emperor of the billion people. This guy was old, not a warrior, and his legs were not in good shape. At this time, he was carried by a tall guard and quickly went out of the palace. However, no matter how fast, it was not faster than the mecha. The 4 Xuanyuans rushed out in an instant, fell from the sky, and blocked the way of the group. Without saying a word, just standing there casually, with a laser sword in hand, the oppressive force scimitar scared the group of people so much that they dared not breathe. A guard roared, grabbed a spear in his hand, and stabbed one of the Xuanyuans. With a swipe, the laser sword slashed down. The guard was still running forward, but his body had been strangely split into 2 halves, fell to the ground, and twitched unnaturally. Such a scene shocked everyone present. The emperor of the billion people was calling out something, and everyone gathered around him, and then shouted something to the Xuanyuan. But the Xuanyuan didn't understand at all, and just stood there quietly. In the distance, a large number of guards also came. But at this moment, a large number of Xuanyuan mechas broke through the air, and there were hundreds of them, falling from the sky, covering the entire palace. At the same time, a large number of mechas landed inside the palace, and began to drive away all the billion people. Anyone who resisted would be met with a counterattack from the Xuanyuan without hesitation. After killing several guards, no billion people dared to resist anymore, and they were driven to a square in front of the palace, and guarded by the Xuanyuan. The whole process can be said to have not encountered any decent resistance. Although the billion people have evolved unique means of attack, the generation gap in technology is too large. On the ground, Gao Cheng said, Captain Chen, you are responsible for exploring the entire underground world. There are hundreds of millions of Proxima people. The person we captured may be just one of the tribes, or the emperor of a country. There should be more countries in the entire Proxima. We must control all resistance forces as much as possible. In short, all matters related to the war are your responsibility. You will be in charge of the specific speed, but there are 2 key points. One is speed, and the other is to control the situation as soon as possible to prepare for our next plan. Chen Yuan nodded, turned around and left, and went to discuss the next offensive plan with the staff. Gao Cheng looked at the only woman in the expert group, a middle-aged woman named Zhang Li. Zhang Li, thank you for your help. We need to understand the language of the Proxima people as soon as possible, and establish normal communication with them. This is the premise for starting all plans. Gao Cheng said. Zhang Li is an expert in human language. Zhang Li nodded, and she also knew the role of communication. After Gao Cheng made the arrangements, he remembered something, and contacted the 3rd ship using the communication system of the mecha. Captain Li, have you found anything here? Gao Cheng asked. Li Xiang's image appeared, and he nodded solemnly, saying, Academician Gao, we really found something. Look. Some images appeared in front of Gao Cheng. After the order was issued, the number 3 ship immediately went to the dark area for exploration. The number 3 ship used carrier-based aircraft and mechas as units to cast a wide net and conduct a large-scale search. The environment on the back was harsh, the temperature reached absolute zero, and it was dark. As far as the eye could see, it was a frozen land. However, carrier-based aircraft and mechas could still withstand this harsh environment. After a large-scale search, some discoveries were soon made. Academician Gao, we have discovered a large number of such cone structures in the dark area behind Proxima b. They look like termite nests. They are not small in size. They are generally more than 20 meters high. There are a lot of holes on them. The diameter is basically about 1 meter. Such structures are spread all over the dark area. There are countless of them. Gao Cheng looked at the pictures he took back. It was indeed as Li Xiang described, like a large termite nest, frozen. Under the searchlight, there were dense holes on the entire cone, which looked a bit creepy. Gao Cheng's first feeling was that these holes were probably the exits for insects to go out. It seems that there is really a special kind of insect on Proxima b that can survive in an environment of absolute zero. From Gao Cheng's professional perspective, it is not impossible for organisms to be born at absolute zero. For example, water bears on Earth can survive in an extremely cold environment close to absolute zero. In the universe, there are all kinds of strange things, so it is normal for such special organisms to be born. However, the survival of living things cannot be separated from energy. On the back of Proxima b, no energy can be obtained. Even if this kind of insect only needs a little energy to survive, it still needs energy. Then their only choice is to move towards the Twilight Zone and obtain energy from the Twilight Zone. Gao Cheng now has a clear idea in his mind. On the back of Proxima b, a special kind of insect was born. It is extremely resistant to low temperatures and stays dormant for many years. This can minimize energy loss. When these insects run out of energy, they will go out in batches to the Twilight Zone to kill. The Proxima people have been fighting against these insects for a long time. When the killing is completed and enough energy is grabbed, the insects will return to the nest and continue to hibernate. As for why these insects do not stay in the warm Twilight Zone to survive, it is also easy to understand. They are born to like cold places. It is genetic. There is nothing they can do. After figuring out this part, Gao Cheng's expression became serious and he said, "Captain Li, have you entered yet?" Li Xiang shook his head and said, "Not yet. We are discussing how to use a safe method to explore the situation below." Gao Cheng thought for a while and said, "Captain Li, in fact, I think the safest way is to attack directly. If we blast it open, we will know the situation below." Li Xiang laughed and said, "Academician Gao, it seems that we have the same idea. Let's discuss it and still think that the direct blasting method is the safest. Then let's start. I also want to see what these bugs look like." Gao Cheng said. Li Xiang nodded and immediately gave the order. The screen switched and a nest with a height of 30 meters appeared in the screen. Above, there were several carrier-based aircraft and mechas surrounding it, and the searchlights were turned on to illuminate the surroundings of the nest. Then, a carrier-based aircraft came forward and fired 8 laser cannons, bombarding the nest. The scorching laser beam was greatly attenuated at absolute zero, but the power was there. With a loud bang, the entire nest exploded instantly due to the sudden change in extreme heat and cold. Chapter 465 Bugs. The attack continued. The nest below was constantly blown open, and soon a large pit appeared. A tangled passage appeared under the nest. "It's very deep." Gao Cheng frowned slightly. Other carrier-based aircraft also joined the attack sequence, and a large-scale bombing began. Soon, a deep pit with a radius of 50 meters and a depth of nearly 50 meters appeared, but crisscrossing passages could still be seen, and no insects were seen. The bombing continued. After bombing down for nearly 20 meters, suddenly, as if the dome had collapsed, a huge gap appeared in the cracked soil and rocks. Under the searchlight, under the gap, dense, gray-black insects were clearly visible, lying together, motionless, like sculptures. "Got it." Gao Cheng's eyes lit up. Li Xiang also immediately called a halt to the attack, and the camera zoomed in to see the situation below. There was a large space below, and there were densely packed insects lying motionless in the space. These insects were not small, and could no longer be called insects. They were nearly 70 to 80 centimeters long, and looked like mantises. Their bodies were very thin, like pieces of cactus spliced together. The amazing thing was that under the loud bombardment of the laser cannon, these insects remained motionless. "Academician Gao, are these insects dead?" Li Xiang asked. Gao Cheng shook his head and said, "Probably not. they may be in deep hibernation. So, let Zhou Yang go forward and chop off a bug to see. Immediately, as Zhou Yang went forward, although the driver was wearing a mecha, he still felt a little scared among the densely packed insects. Looking around, the driver picked up the laser sword and stabbed a bug. The laser sword passed through, and the bug was cut into 2 halves cleanly. The details of the cut were also seen clearly by Zhou Yang. The cross-section was neat, with no blood flowing out. Due to the continuous bombing around, the temperature was not very low, so the cross-section was not frozen immediately, so the internal structure could be seen. The whole was like bone marrow, highly dense, with grey-black hard bones on the outside, and only in the core were there some soft tissues similar to bone marrow. This structure was normal in Zhou Yang's opinion, because the temperature of these insects was too low, and hard bones were necessary to resist the cold. The insect was split in half, and it didn't even move or struggle. And the surrounding insects didn't show any signs of waking up. Academician Zhou, why don't these insects wake up? Li Xiang asked. Zhou Yang thought for a while and said, the first reason is that they are in deep hibernation, and the body forms a mechanism. They won't wake up until the energy they obtained before is exhausted. After a pause, Zhou Yang said, there is another possibility, that these insects need specific signals to wake up. Specific signals? Li Xiang didn't quite understand. Zhou Yang, the physiological structure of insects like this is destined not to have very high intelligence. Everything is done by instinct. You know bees, the entire bee colony is commanded by the queen bee, so I speculate that these insects may also have a supreme leader who has a certain degree of intelligence and can drive all insects. Because if we follow the first possibility, the individual insects are different and the energy they obtain may also be different. If some insects run out of energy and wake up early, will they take the initiative to attack the neighbors? If they are a single group, it is basically impossible to pose a threat to the neighbors. If they wait for other tribes to wake up, they have no energy. If they don't hibernate in extremely cold temperatures, they will die soon. So if they want to pose a huge threat to their neighbors, they can only appear in large numbers, just like army ants, winning by numbers. So I speculate that they may have a leader who wakes up all the insects at a specific time. If the insects run out of energy in hibernation and cannot wake up, they will be eliminated and die. Those who can wake up will obey the leader's drive and start hunting. The more Zhou Yang thought about it, the more excited he became. He felt that his speculation made sense. After all, if there were only a few insects, it would be impossible for them to pose a threat to the neighbors, to the extent that the neighbors would record the threat of insects in history. Therefore, these insects must act in groups. In this case, there must be a role similar to the queen bee, to command the entire army of insects. Captain Lee, please bring a few insects back and send them to me so that I can study them. Zhou Yang said. Li Xiang nodded. This is easy. Zhou Yang continued. At the same time, I speculate that they should have a leader. The place where the leader lives must be very special. He may live in the largest nest. Please find the largest nest and contact me. After confirming the target, we will discuss the next step. Li Xiang nodded and immediately acted according to the order to search for the largest nest. Half an hour later, after confirmation and comparison, the largest nest was found. This is a huge nest with a height of 113 meters, like a small mountain. There are also a large number of nests surrounding it, guarding this nest. 7 nests of 100 meters high were found, but the largest one was the one in front of him. Zhou Yang did not act in a hurry, but asked the third ship to withdraw. He planned to obtain some information from the Billion people first, and then decide on the next action. The next day, the quick-drying concrete floor had solidified, and a large number of robots began to enter the site to build a base. When they came, they brought a base system. The construction progressed very quickly, and on the other hand, the exploration of the underground world was also roughly completed. The entire underground space was, just as Zhou Yang guessed, surrounding the entire Twilight Zone. It was not completely hollowed out of the Twilight Zone, but it was not far from it. At the same time, the Billion people also had as many as 6 tribes. The largest tribe had a population of 30 million, and the smallest tribe had a population of more than 10 million. However, there were not many people who evolved special abilities, had the ability to absorb radiation, and became warriors. The total number was only about 10 million. Under the suppression of powerful technology, all resistance was futile. The emperors of the 6 tribes were all controlled. A large amount of literature and materials were also obtained, and began to be studied. In a flash, a week passed. The base has not been fully built, but some areas have been put into use. In one of the laboratories, Gao Cheng is studying the spinal cord samples of insects. Gao Cheng, wearing a protective suit, looks a bit clumsy. After dragging the insect corpses back, Gao Cheng found that these insects are also rich in strong radiation, and the index has reached 600 rads. If this number comes into direct contact with the human body, humans will almost certainly die. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466, The History of the Neighbors. After dissecting and studying the insects, it was found that the genes of these insects contain a large number of superoxide dismutase genes. This superoxide dismutase gene has also been found in the study of water bears. Its main function is to reduce oxidative damage and repair DNA. At the same time, a protein was found in the body of this insect. This protein can bind to DNA and act as a shield to resist the damage of strong radiation to DNA. Gao Cheng speculated that it was these 2 substances that gave the insects incredible resistance to severe cold and strong radiation. In particular, the second protein was also found in the body of the Bilin warrior. Gao Cheng also dissected the body of a Bilin warrior, but did not find any special organs that could obviously store radiation. However, the discovery of this protein made Gao Cheng speculate that the reason why the Bilin warriors could absorb radiation may be related to this protein. The absorbed strong radiation is highly enriched in the body, but it does not damage the body. This protein is also at work. Compared with ordinary Bilin, the content of this protein in Bilin warriors is dozens of times that of ordinary Bilin. But Gao Cheng did not find the answer to why the B9 warriors had the same protein as the insects. At the same time, the dissection of the insects also indirectly confirmed Gao Cheng's speculation that the insects might really have a leader similar to the queen bee. Because the insects themselves have almost no brain central structure, there are only some special nerve plexuses in the brain of the insects. This simple nerve plexus structure is almost impossible to form sufficient intelligence, so the actions of the insects must be directed by someone. Gao Cheng became very interested in this protein and tried to extract and cultivate it in the experiment, but the progress was not fast. At this time, someone knocked on the door. Zhang Li pushed the door open and said with a smile, "Academician Gao, I hope I did not disturb you." Gao Cheng shook his head and asked expectantly, "How is it? Has the language of the Bilin people been deciphered?" Zhang Li nodded vigorously and said, "We have lived up to your expectations. We have basically deciphered it." Oh. Gao Cheng's eyes lit up. He quickly put down the experiment in his hand, took Zhang Li to the next door, called the expert group, and the 2 captains Chen Yuan and Li Ziyang, and then asked, "Then tell us in detail, we have a lot of questions waiting for you to answer." Zhang Li glanced at Huang Yangrang beside her. This week, she was responsible for language deciphering, while Huang Yangrang was responsible for historical document research. Let me just tell you about my research findings. Through my study of Proxima B's documents, I found that they have a recorded history of about 80,000 years. During these 80,000 years, they have developed from ignorance to the current quasi-feudal civilization. I won't go into too much detail about the culture and technological level they have formed. I will mainly explain a few issues that we are more concerned about. First of all, why did they build a city underground? The reason is very simple, and it is similar to Academician Gao's speculation. That is, to resist the bugs we found in the dark zone. These bugs appear once every 20 orbital periods. Proxima B's orbital period is 11.2 days of Earth time. 20 orbital periods are equivalent to 224 days on Earth, or 8 months. By then, Hundreds of millions of insects will appear in the twilight zone, eating all the food they can eat, mainly living things, and a very small amount of vegetation. We discovered in our previous exploration that there are not many living things in the forest zone. The reason is this. According to their literature, there were a large number of living things in the twilight zone, but they gradually became extinct. The Proxima people also preserved some of them, domesticated them artificially, and provided them with meat. Everyone showed surprised expressions. It must be said that the Proxima people are also miserable. Every 8 months, they have to suffer an attack by insects. Zhang Li continued, as for the reason why the Proxima warriors can absorb radiation, we have also found it. At the beginning, the Proxima people should not have the ability to absorb radiation. They live in the forest. Whenever a solar flare breaks out, they will flee underground to hide. But in the battle with the insects, perhaps because of the lack of food, some Proxima people tried to eat insects. Gao Cheng frowned slightly. As for the physiological structure of the insects, except for the bone marrow, the rest are all hard bones. Then some people died, while some people survived and mutated. They can actively absorb radiation and store it in their bodies. Over the long years, the Billion people have also found ways to utilize the radiation in their bodies and can emit the radiation that is enriched in their bodies. They have even developed some special methods, just like martial arts secrets, which can utilize radiation energy more effectively and become more powerful. Gao Cheng smiled and said, it really has become kickin'. Zhang Li nodded and said, over the long years, the Billion people have also found a mild mutation method. After the birth of a newborn, they will place it in diluted insect tissue fluid. If the skin of the newborn mutates, it means that the mutation is successful. If it is not successful, it will become an ordinary Billion person, because the method is appropriate, and it will not affect life safety. Gao Cheng said, it seems that we have found the answer to our biggest question. After a pause, Gao Cheng asked again, what about the flint? Is there any relevant information? Gao Cheng thought that the lighting pillars in the underground city were burning dry firewood at first, but later found out that they were not. Instead, they were burning a kind of redstone. After measurement, it was found that it contained high-intensity radiation. This kind of stone can actually burn and continuously provide energy, which really subverted Gao Cheng's cognition. It is related to energy, so Gao Cheng is also very concerned. Zhang Li nodded and said, this kind of stone, translated as Valen, is called Valen by the Proxima people. It is a kind of stone discovered when their civilization originated. They call it the Holy Stone and the Stone of Origin. As for the source, they mined it in the mountainous rock area. The Proxima people would organize strong warriors to go to the mountainous area to explore and find Valen stone, and then excavate it as an important resource to provide them with lighting and other energy. By the way, I found some Valen stone veins that the Proxima people have already explored. We can mine it ourselves. Gao Cheng nodded. In this week, they have conducted preliminary exploration of Proxima B and discovered some basic minerals. The resource reserves are also rich, but there is nothing special. The discovery of Valen stone is definitely an important discovery. Regarding insects, have the Billion people found anything? They should have explored the source of the insects and thought about how to completely eliminate them. Do they know a lot about insects? Gao Cheng asked. It should be easy to completely eliminate the threat of insects, but Gao Cheng wanted to study them carefully to see if there was any value in using them. Chapter 467 How much Zhou Yang attaches? Zhang Li nodded. There are discoveries in this regard. According to the documents of the Billion people, they once discovered the existence of a leader among the insects. This leader was called Mana by them, representing the god of evil and the god of cold. It is recorded that Mana used his divine power to control his believers, that is, these insects, and wanted to destroy the entire world. In short, it was a very normal worship of gods. However, since Mana did not appear many times, many of them were fabricated, and the authenticity was questionable. But one thing is certain, that is, Mana has a certain degree of wisdom, and can control insects. Gao Cheng nodded, which was consistent with his speculation. Then Zhang Li and Huan Yangrang introduced some of their other discoveries, but the significance was not as great as the previous discoveries. After the introduction, Gao Cheng also roughly sorted out his thoughts for the next step and said, next, we have to do a few things. The first thing is to cultivate a puppet. Since it is a colonization, Gao Cheng understands that he must not personally participate in it. There are hundreds of millions of billion people, and the management cost is not small. Therefore, supporting puppets and managing themselves is the best means of colonization. In the history of the Earth, those colonists have done this, retreating behind the scenes and controlling everything. Gao Cheng looked at Zhang Li and asked, Zhang Li, you have also contacted the leaders of the 6 tribes of the billion people this week. Which one do you think is more suitable for support? Zhang Li thought for a while and said, from my point of view, the leader of the largest Gorich tribe, Gorich 16th, is more suitable. He is more shrewd and capable. The Gorich tribe has survived for nearly 1,000 years. Under his rule, it has regained its second spring and has become the most powerful tribe again. Gao Cheng looked at everyone and asked, what do you think? Everyone present looked at each other, and Chen Yuan said, I think this guy is okay. We should choose a shrewd and capable person, so that we can save some trouble in the future. Since this Gorich 16 is so powerful, will he threaten us in the future? Someone said worriedly. Chen Yuan smiled contemptuously and said, it took them 80,000 years to develop to this point. What do you think? At this time, Li Xiang said, I think who to choose is secondary. After all, they are just puppets. The key is how to colonize them, and what means to choose to rule them. It shouldn't work to continue their ruling methods. A white physicist next to him smiled and said, this is simple. Just use the method of promoting democracy in our country anyway. We all do it this way. After saying that, he laughed twice at himself. Everyone present also laughed knowingly. The method of promoting democracy in the country is well known. Gao Cheng thought about it and said with a smile, if your method doesn't work, let's use our method to reform their political system. In this way, we can better unleash their energy. After talking about it, everyone still couldn't decide on a better method. Then let's wait for this matter. Everyone go back and think about it first. We will have a meeting to discuss it tomorrow. Gao Cheng said. Everyone nodded. Gao Cheng continued, then there is the matter of the bugs. My opinion is that we should try to find this manner and see if we can control him. His ability to control bugs is still very valuable for research. And think about it, the reproduction capacity of these bugs must be very strong. If we control mana, can we create a large army of bugs and control them to attack? Many people's eyes lit up, and one of them said, this idea, these individual bugs may not be strong, but they are numerous and overwhelming, just like army ants. If they are used well, they will definitely be amazing. Yes, and who says that individual bugs are not strong? Think about it, this neighbor can control radiation and jump several meters. It's considered powerful, right? He has been suppressed by bugs for 80,000 years. Can you say that individual bugs are not strong? Gao Cheng said, this is just an idea of mine. Whether it will succeed or not remains to be seen. Now it is most important to find mana. Captain Lee, I don't understand military matters. You should discuss a suitable method among yourselves to explore the largest nest we found and see if you can find mana. Li Xiang nodded and said, leave this to us. Gao Cheng continued, then the third thing is the development of resources. In addition to basic mineral resources, we should develop this valonite as an energy source on a large scale. Many scientists looked at each other and nodded. As a new energy source, valonite is a big discovery. The meeting was basically over here. At this time, a soldier walked into the conference room quickly and reported, Captain, we detected the signal of the number 6 ship. They just completed the space jump and appeared in the synchronous orbit of Proxima b. Ship number 6. Chen Yuan was shocked. Everyone present was also shocked. Let's go and take a look. Gao Cheng stood up and said, Zhou Yang cared so much about this colonization. It was not enough to send the number 3 ship to assist, and he even sent another battleship. These are 3 battleships. Are they planning to completely destroy the Proxima people? Ship number 6 quickly contacted ship number 2 and landed on Proxima b under the guidance of ship number 2. A few minutes later, the huge warship landed in the warship docking channel outside the base. What Gao Cheng didn't expect was that when the hatch opened, the person who led the way was someone he had never expected. Li Xianchu. The one walking in front was actually Li Xianchu. Minister Li, why are you here? Gao Cheng said in shock. Li Xianchu's status is self-evident. He is definitely one of the most powerful people on earth. Li Xianchu smiled and greeted everyone, and then said, Mr. Zhou is worried about the things here, so he asked me to come here in person. Gao Cheng was shocked again. He never thought that Zhou Yang attached so much importance to colonizing Proxima B that it was not enough to send 3 warships, and even Li Xianchu was sent over. Li Xianchu asked, so how is the colonization going now? Gao Cheng came back to his senses and said, Minister Li, we were just discussing it. So, let's go to the conference room to talk about it. Li Xianchu nodded, and without appreciating the scenery of Proxima B, he led a group of people to the conference room in a swift and resolute manner. In the meeting room, Gao Cheng briefly recounted everything that had happened since arriving at Proxima B, and then emphasized the several resolutions they had just reached in the meeting. In Gao Cheng's opinion, they had done a good job, but what he didn't expect was that Li Xianchu's expression became increasingly gloomy as he listened. You guys, really? After Gao Cheng finished speaking, Li Xianchu sighed, his face full of helplessness. Chapter 468 Who is right and who is wrong? Hearing Li Xianchu's words, everyone present changed color. Gao Cheng's face also changed again and again, and he asked with a trembling voice, Minister Li, are we doing something wrong? Li Xianchu's expression instantly returned to normal, and he smiled and said, Academician Gao, and all the experts, I don't question your meaning, and your approach is also correct, but, after a pause, Li Xianchu continued, you didn't understand what Mr. Zhou meant. Gao Cheng was stunned. Zhou Yang said to be quick, and he felt that he had done it fast enough. Li Xianchu said, comrades, time is very tight. Gao Cheng and others spent a week on Proxima B, and nearly 3 months had passed on Earth. During this period of time, a lot of things happened. For example, a large number of warships from Desatine arrived. For example, a tragic battle to defend the Earth. Li Xianchu did not mention these things and continued, we have sent 2 warships. If these 2 warships were placed in other places, they could play a greater role. Like the 3 things you discussed before, in my opinion, there are better ways to deal with them. For example, there is no need to wait until we understand their language to support the puppets. We are strong, and we just need to put on the right posture from the beginning. We only need to show our strength and tell the billion people that if they surrender, they will live, and if they don't surrender, they will die. That's enough. As for supporting a puppet, I very much support this approach, but it doesn't matter who to support. Even if I like someone more, I can designate him as the emperor of the billion people, because we are the absolute power standing behind the puppet. Even if he is a pig, he just needs to be obedient. If he doesn't obey, then replace him. So if it were me, I would conquer the 6 billion tribes on the first day, and announce their new king on the second day. Anyone who disobeys or resists would be suppressed. Of course, this is just my idea. We need to discuss specific issues. As for communication and studying the neighbors, we can do it slowly later. Gao Cheng's body began to tremble, but he had to admit that what Li Xianchu said seemed to be right. Chen Yuan and Li Xiang also lowered their heads in shame under Li Xianchu's stern gaze. Military matters should be decided by them. Li Xianchu continued, as for the bugs, they are still dormant, so there is no need to pay attention to them. We can slowly deal with them in the future. There is no need to delay this bug god until now. You can blow up the nest on the first day you find it. If they want to resist, then destroy them. Technology is the foundation. Our research goal is to develop more powerful super weapons. According to Mr. Zhou, destroying a planet with one blow is not enough. Destroying the entire galaxy with one blow is powerful. Gao Cheng blushed. It was he who proposed to study the method of controlling mana and turn the bugs into an army. But now, after hearing what Li Xianchu said, he suddenly realized that no matter how powerful the bugs were, what could they do? After all, they were still on the planet, and humans already had super weapons that could destroy the entire planet with one blow. If you have that time, researching super weapons is the right thing to do. Researching the army of bugs is simply a waste of time and a crooked way. As for the matter of Valentstone, it is a good thing to have a discovery, but we already have nuclear fusion, and in the future we are going to study and use the power of the entire star, so I feel that the role of this Valentstone is still very limited. Li Xianshu said again. Gao Cheng's face turned redder. Just like Li Xianshu said, nuclear fusion has already been achieved, and almost unlimited energy has been obtained. The oil and coal on the earth have long been very scarce, or almost not mined. He actually wanted to use Valentstone with strong radiation. To say that he was confused is an understatement. To say that he was stupid is the truth. The expressions of many scientists present were more embarrassed than each other. Before, everyone thought that the idea they discussed was very good, but now after listening to what Li Xianshu said, they realized how wrong they were. Gao Cheng stood up, bowed deeply to Li Xianshu, and said, Minister Li, I was wrong. I have to take primary responsibility for this action. I ask for punishment. Li Xianshu quickly stood up, pulled Gao Cheng to sit down, and then said, Academician Gao, please don't say that. You are a meritorious person who has made so many contributions to the country. How can I bear to punish you? And this action, in the final analysis, is still our decision-making error. We did not consider the complexity of the matter clearly, and did not explain the task clearly. From this point of view, none of you are responsible. We are responsible. Li Xianshu also figured it out. A large part of the reason why this action turned out like this was that Gao Cheng was made the person in charge. What is Gao Cheng? He is a scientist. Scientists are serious, do things seriously, and are methodical. If they are not like this, they will not be scientists. So when doing anything, scientists always want to succeed 100%. Then they think more, and when they have a little discovery, they think they can study it carefully. Li Xianshu felt that for an operation like this, the person in charge should be a politician, a seasoned one. For example, an old politician like Xin would be able to get things done clearly in less than 2 days. So Zhou Yang sent Li Xianshu directly after he felt that the progress was slow. By the way, there are also you two. Li Xianshu looked at Chen Yuan and Li Ziyang. His expression became extremely stern, and he said in a deep voice, Chen Yuan, Li Ziyang. Here. The two stood up with serious expressions. Li Xianshu said, in this operation, the two of you have committed serious dereliction of duty. On behalf of the military command center, I will now give you to a serious demerit, and demote your positions from captain to deputy captain and acting captain. Do you have any objections? In this operation, Chen Yuan and Li Ziyang, the two captains, did not do anything. Although they were soldiers, and obeyed orders as their duty, they were both captains and commanders, and they made such a mistake, which was simply intolerable. No. The two said loudly. Gao Cheng and others were shocked. Minister Li, the responsibility this time is mainly on me, and it has nothing to do with Captain Chen and Captain Li. Gao Cheng said hurriedly. Li Xianshu smiled and said, Academician Gao, let's settle this matter. You see, they don't have any objections. Chen Yuan and Li Ziyang said nothing. If they had any objections, would they dare to have any? Li Xianshu said, well, the incident has already happened. It is meaningless to explore who is right and who is wrong. However, during this week, everyone has laid a good foundation. The next things will be much easier. Chapter 469 Main mission completed. On Earth, the London Eye. The towering London Eye has disappeared without a trace, and the area of several kilometers has become a flatland. However, you can vaguely see the charred marks on the ground, and the potholes, as if it had been baptized by war. On the high platform surrounded by countless flowers, Zhou Yang, as well as the Prime Minister of Country Y, stood on the high platform, and thousands of ordinary people below the stage bowed their heads in silence to participate in this memorial event. In the last battle to defend the Earth, although the Earth repelled the enemy, it also paid a very heavy price. Especially the Earth, which was attacked, and many places around the world suffered different degrees of attack. For example, in Country Y, the London Eye was destroyed by a laser cannon. For example, Los Angeles in Country M, which was repeatedly destroyed in the movie, was also bombed. Then there was RB, which was attacked by several main gun-level laser cannons, and most of the country was destroyed. The tsunami and earthquake caused it, and it is unknown how many people died. Fortunately, Country Z's homeland was protected by brave soldiers, and did not suffer any direct bombing. Zhou Yang closed his eyes, but was thinking about many things. At this moment, a sudden reminder in his mind woke Zhou Yang up. Congratulations to the host for completing the main task and getting the reward, the technical information of the Dyson sphere. Going into deep space and completing the colonization of other civilizations is just the beginning. Only by strengthening ourselves can we gain a foothold in the magnificent universe. The main task is triggered. Build a Dyson sphere, thoroughly master the power of stars, and become a true secondary civilization. Reward, positive and negative matter annihilation drive engine. Zhou Yang was startled, and then heaved a sigh of relief. The main task was finally completed. Congratulations to the player for triggering the random task. Blind defense is not a long-term solution. Launch a counterattack against the enemy. Reward, genetic recombination technology. As expected, there is another random task. According to past experience, random tasks are not very difficult, and they are basically benefits. But this time, Zhou Yang frowned. Counterattack? Zhou Yang's thoughts could not help but drift back to 9 days ago. 9 days ago, at 1:36 PM on September 26 BJ time, a large number of space channels suddenly appeared in the space between the Earth and the Moon. These changes were immediately discovered by the Deep Space Detection System, as well as the many detectors deployed on the Moon, synchronous orbit, and the Earth. Then, densely packed, hundreds of warships drilled out of the space channel. They were of different sizes, and the longest was nearly 4 kilometers long. Moreover, the laser cannons of all warships were already fully charged and ready to fire at any time. In an instant, hundreds of warships, like beasts launching an attack, bared their fangs at the Earth. The last battle was only a small fleet of Decidin, and at that time, they did not expect that the equipment of the Earth was not bad, so they suffered a lot. This time, the Decidin civilization obviously took the existence of the Earth seriously, and after being expelled by the warships of the Oma civilization last time, it was natural for them to regard the Earth as the territory of the Oma civilization. Since they are mortal enemies, they must go all out. So a kick in the door is inevitable. If it were the old Earth, a kick like this would probably only take one round of attack to cause a devastating blow. Fortunately, the Earth has gained a few more months of development time. During the nearly 3 months that Gao Cheng left Earth and headed for Proxima B, in addition to frantically manufacturing warships, humans also initially established a defense system. The command center has discussed many times how to prevent the enemy from kicking the door, because humans have done this before, charging in advance, then jumping through space, and suddenly attacking the enemy. The warships of the Oma civilization have suffered from this. For this reason, humans have launched a plan to build a large number of light warships. The construction of light warships has long been planned, and this time the priority is to build defensive warships, which are only 500 meters long, with a slender hull, less materials, and a high-power particle thruster. There is only a symbolic laser cannon, intelligent program control, unmanned driving, and mainly equipped with a set of energy shields. This kind of warship, which is almost cannon fodder, is used as cannon fodder to resist enemy attacks. On the one hand, a Dragon Gate formation can be set up to cover the most important number 1 ship. At the same time, a large number of such light warships were deployed in the Earth's orbit. The initial construction plan was to cover the entire Earth and form an airtight defense wall. But later it was discovered that, in order to complete such a defense system, it was unknown how many warships had to be built, but in order to prevent the enemy from kicking the door, they could only grit their teeth and build it. In 3 months, all the industrial capacity of mankind was fully operational, and more than 3,000 light warships were built. Although this number is large, it is obviously not enough. However, after calculation, it is still enough. First, it is deployed over major countries and cities. Places like the ocean, uninhabited mountains, and the North and South poles can only be temporarily abandoned. Then the higher the position of the light warship, the larger the area of the energy shield of the same area projected onto the Earth. So all are deployed in synchronous orbits. In this way, more than 3,000 light warships can barely protect important areas. At the main battleships, in 3 months, the number of Pangu-class warships has broken through again, reaching 42. Needless to say, the number of other carrier-based aircraft and mechas built. As time went by, the emergency committee felt more and more uneasy. The enemy's absence did not mean that the enemy would not appear. The enemy could appear at any time and any place. Humans could only passively defend and prepare to meet the enemy as much as possible. Therefore, in August, all warships had been launched and entered the Earth's orbit, and all bases were in combat readiness. Even in order to improve the defense network, even the carrier-based aircraft with energy shields were pulled out, and the energy shields were turned on to fill the gaps in the defense network. Finally, all efforts were rewarded. Facing the kick of the Desatine fleet, the losses were reduced to the minimum. That day, the sky seemed to be many times brighter in an instant. The whole sky seemed to be pierced, and the next moment, I don't know how many laser beams visible to the naked eye, fell from the sky and bombarded the Earth. The London Eye was destroyed in this way. Similarly, many places were bombed. But this first wave of attacks was defended by humans. The losses were not small. A total of 3,786 light warships, 1,622 of which were offline and destroyed. Unmanned aircraft were used to fill the gaps in the defense network. There were tens of thousands of carrier-based aircraft, but 1,109 of them were lost. There were no casualties among the combatants. And the human counterattack also began from this moment. Chapter 470 Chinfunkyo's Thoughts. Comparison between the enemy and us. The enemy has a total of 124 large and small warships. On the human side, there are 42 Pangu-class warships. After the first round of attacks, there are still more than 2,000 light defense warships left. There are more than 18,000 carrier-based aircraft, including all those on board. The total number of mechas exceeds 160,000, but in a battle of this level, the role of mechas is really limited. There are also many laser cannon bases between the Earth and the Moon, and the number of laser cannons has reached 2,800. At least from the perspective of paper strength, the Earth side is lagging behind in all aspects, and the lag is not a little bit. The only advantage is that it has a super weapon. On the enemy side, from the intelligence finally confirmed by the Oma civilization, the Desatine civilization has super weapons, but they are not made by themselves, but purchased. At the same time, the Desatine civilization cannot buy top-level super weapons, but super weapons eliminated by powerful civilizations. As for the number, there are a batch, but not many, and these super weapons are basically used in the main battlefields of the Desatine civilization and the Oma civilization. The command center had already held a meeting to study the issue. They felt that with Desatine civilization's understanding of the Earth, they would not deploy super weapons. After all, in the eyes of Desatine civilization, the Earth was really not worth mentioning, and was not qualified for them to deploy super weapons. This was the only chance to win. The first order issued by the Earth Command Center was for all surviving light warships to approach ship number 1. At the same time, all Pangu-class warships were also maneuvering near ship number 1, ready to help ship number 1 defend at any time. This order placed the hope of victory on ship number 1. Even if all other warships were sacrificed, ship number 1 must be given enough time to exert the powerful power of super weapons. As for the idle carrier-based aircraft and mechas, their respective military commanders would maneuver and fight according to the battlefield situation. There was no Earth to take care of. If the skin was gone, the hair would not be attached. If the war failed, the Earth would be finished. Ship number 1 was in low Earth orbit. The moment the Desatine's fleet appeared, the deputy captain on duty, Tangling, had already noticed it. While asking someone to call Chinfunkyo, he issued the first order to start charging the super weapon at full power. Then, the first round of attacks came. Ship number 1 was surrounded by light defense warships that protected it, and there was also a defense network in the synchronous orbit. So after the first round of attacks, ship number 1 was not damaged at all. The entire bridge was busy. Inside the warship, sharp alarms rang out. All combat personnel were dispatched, and carrier-based aircraft and mechas were in place, and began to attack. Chinfunkyo, who was wearing a vest and shorts, ran over in a hurry without even wearing shoes, shouting as he ran, "Old Tang, start the super weapon quickly. Is this an enemy attack?" The scorching light in front of the porthole made Chen Finkio's heart tremble. Tang Ling nodded. At this time, the first round of attacks was over, and the starry sky above was full of explosions. "Damn, it seems that the Earth has also been attacked," Tang Ling said angrily. Chen Finkio came to the bridge and quickly checked the enemy's target. After seeing it clearly, he also took a breath and said, 124 warships. They really look down on our Earth. Where is the command center? Has there been any order? Chen Finkio asked hurriedly. A confidential staff officer stood up and said loudly, "The command has ordered all warships to approach our ship and protect our ship with all their strength. At the same time, it has ordered our ship to find an angle to maximize the power of the super weapon." Tang Ling's face changed slightly, and Chen Finkio gritted his teeth and said, "It seems that the command has placed the hope of victory on us. Reply to the command and say that we guarantee to complete the task." After that, Chen Finkio asked again, "How long will it take for the super weapon to complete the buffering? Show me the countdown." 106 seconds. A bright red countdown appeared above the holographic projection showing the battlefield situation. At this time, all the warships that received the order have already maneuvered towards the number 1 ship, and the enemy fleet did not seem to expect that a round of attack would not destroy the Earth's defense network. However, the enemy fleet has slowly begun to deploy its formation, facing the Earth head-on and forming a long line. Seeing this scene, Chen Finkio frowned slightly. Now the Earth warships and the Desertans warships are like two armies facing each other, with a distance of about 110,000 kilometers between them. When the super weapon is buffered, the enemy's formation may have been fully deployed. Chen Finkio said. On the human side, warships, carrier-based aircraft, and laser cannon bases have already launched a counterattack. Dense laser beams tear through the starry sky and hit the energy shield of the enemy ship, splashing dots of light. Chen Finkio frowned and said, "If we wait until the enemy's formation is fully deployed, the power of our super weapon will not be able to exert its maximum lethality. This super weapon of mankind is a laser cannon. It shoots in a straight line. It will only penetrate when it hits the target until the power is exhausted. It is not to shoot over and explode at the predetermined location. So in this situation, the enemy's formation is spread out in a long line, and the number 1 warship is located in the front. With one shot, at most a few warships in a straight line can be killed, completely wasting the power of the super weapon. And it is impossible to stop the enemy from spreading out. Now that the war has just begun, the enemy has no reason to retreat in groups, to cover each other as before. The buffer countdown of the super weapon is still ticking away, and there are now 89 seconds left. Contact the command center. I have an idea, Chen Finkio said. Wang Muzhao appeared. Minister, I have an idea. Now the enemy is lined up in a row. If we attack head on, the power of the super weapon will be completely wasted. So I want to make a space jump to the side of the enemy, and then shoot them like an arrow. Chen Finkio tilted his hand fiercely and gestured. Wang Muzhao was stunned, then frowned and said, "What about safety? Even if you jump back, it will take 20 seconds to start up. With such a long time, the remaining warships of the enemy can definitely blow up your energy shield. You can't use super weapons as disposable weapons." Chen Finkio said in a deep voice, "Light warships cannot jump through space, so I want to jump with the other 41 Pangu class warships and let them cover our number 1 warship." Wang Muzhao's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly glanced at the enemy's gradually unfolding formation, and then looked at the buffer countdown of the super weapon. He gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, let's do it. If you do this, it is equivalent to placing all 42 warships outside the defense network. Even if you start the space jump back immediately, there will definitely be losses during the startup period. But at least it can cause a lot of casualties, give full play to the power of the super weapon, and ensure the safety of the number 1 warship. There will be losses, but the benefits will be greater. And in this war, Wang Muzhao never considered being able to retreat unscathed, without any losses." Chapter 471. Hit the target. The opportunity was fleeting, and time was running out. The captains of the remaining 41 warships simultaneously accessed the same communication channel. Old Chen, we already know your idea. There is nothing to say. Let's do it. Yes, at worst, we will die. At this time, if we don't stand up, who else can protect the Earth? Chen Finkyo didn't care about sentimentality and said, then we will use the 20-second buffer time as the limit, and then all our warships will jump to this position. Chen Finkyo marked the next position on the holographic projection and continued, you jump around me, each of you will be assigned a position, and after I finish the attack, you will jump back immediately. Understood. Anyway, we are here to plug the bullet hole. You old boy, you better aim and shoot. With this super weapon of yours, whether you can win or not depends on you. Everyone said with a smile, and then issued orders. First of all, to evacuate all mechas and carrier-based aircraft on the warship. It is foreseeable that there will definitely be losses, so there is no need to drag the carrier-based mechas and carrier-based aircraft and cause unnecessary losses. In the sky, light warships were constantly being blown up, and the defense network was collapsing bit by bit. As the defending party, humans still had some home advantage. However, the defense network was really limited, and its only function was to buy a certain amount of time. Under the concentrated fire of human warships, the enemy warships soon had energy shields in danger. However, this time, the enemy warships did not cover each other's evacuation, but took the initiative to evacuate on the early warning line and escaped by space jump. There was no pursuit, and this was not the time to pursue. The Desatine fleet should not know that humans have mastered the space jump technology. This is another advantage, creating conditions for launching a surprise attack. In a blink of an eye, the 20-second countdown arrived. Start the space jump. 42 captains gave the order at the same time. 20 seconds passed in a blink of an eye, and 42 Pangu-class warships in different positions in the Earth's orbit had space channels in front of them at the same time, and then entered them and disappeared. Among the 124 warships of Desatine, there was a warship with a length of 4,300 meters, which was the main ship of this fleet. On the bridge of the main ship, the captain of the fleet was called Warner. He was an old man with pale blue skin and spots of age spots. Although he was old, Warner was in good spirits, with eyes as sharp as an eagle, shining with wisdom. General, I think Commander Meller is taking revenge on you by sending you to this place to attack such a low-level civilization. A young officer standing next to Warner said arrogantly. Low-level civilization? Warner shook his head slightly and said, don't forget, this is the home planet of the Oma civilization. The young officer curled his lips and said, so what if it's the home planet? According to our intelligence, the Oma people have left their home planet for 20,000 years. A new civilization has been born here, called humans, and the history of human civilization is still short. Although they have developed warships, they have not yet developed space jumping technology. They can only move between planets and pose no threat to us at all. Really? Warner still shook his head, looking at the warships bombarding each other below, and said, according to our intelligence, the Oma people have had contact with humans again. We don't know whether any agreement has been reached, but judging from the fact that the Ryan fleet was repelled by the Oma fleet before, I speculate that the Oma people and humans have reached a cooperation agreement. Otherwise the Oma people would not have sent out their fleet to help humans. Since they have already cooperated, it is not impossible for the Oma people to fund some human technologies, such as space jumping technology. That's impossible. Would the Oma people be so kind? And why didn't I see any Oma warships this time? If they cooperated, there should be Oma warships here to help them defend. The young officer said with doubt. Warner did not refute, narrowed his eyes slightly, and said, and you said that the history of human civilization is still short. I don't believe it. You probably didn't read the combat report of the Ryan fleet carefully. This galaxy is very special. The fourth dimension has produced a huge time deviation here. There is a huge difference between the time outside the galaxy and the time inside the galaxy. When the Ryan fleet attacked humans, they only had 6 warships, and it took only 10 days from Ryan's return to our dispatch, and they already had 42 warships, and so many light warships, which shows that they have been in this situation for a long time. This is their advantage, the biggest advantage. So this time, we must defeat them thoroughly and can't leave them any chance to develop. Otherwise, the next time we come, they may have hundreds of warships. The young officer frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "General, I believe in your ability, and we have more warships, and we will definitely win this war." Warner smiled and said, "I hope so." At this moment, Warner's face suddenly changed. He sat up in shock, frowned and said, "It's a space channel. They really have mastered the technology of space jumping." The images sent back by the warships showed that space channels appeared in front of the Pangu class warships of the human race. The young officer cursed and said, "Damn it, it must be the space jump device given to them by the Orma people." Then he said, "Are they going to escape?" "Escape? I don't think so." Warner shook his head and said, "This is their home planet. Order all warships to be careful of the enemy suddenly appearing behind them." The order had just been issued, and the next moment, on the left side of more than 100 warships, within a super close distance of 1,000 kilometers, dense space channels appeared, and 42 Pangu class warships drilled out of the space channels in unison. "Left," Warner exclaimed, but he couldn't figure out why the human warships jumped to the left side of their fleet. What was the meaning of such an action? Wouldn't it be even less advantageous to break away from the defense network formed by small warships? But the next moment, Warner understood the reason. In the middle of the 42 warships, the front end of a warship burst into a scorching light like the sun. The next moment, an amazing laser beam with a diameter of tens of meters whizzed out. At this moment, it was as if the world had lost its sound, and all the focus was on this trembling laser beam. The angle was right. The thick laser beam, like a soul-piercing shot, penetrated the ships one by one from the far right of the Decidin fleet. The energy shield, facing this laser beam, was like paper, and the huge warships were also pierced in an instant. In an instant, wherever the laser beam passed, the warships exploded one by one, and the flames of the explosions were like a string of candied whores. Chapter 472. The enemy's response. How powerful is a full-power super weapon? In Zhou Yang's calculation, it is not a problem to penetrate the Earth and completely destroy the Earth with one blow. And now, wherever the laser beam passes, one Decidin warship explodes. The Decidin warships are not all 124 warships lined up side by side, but staggered, roughly divided into two rows, one above and one below. The number of warships in the two rows is almost the same, both 62. And the attack of the number 1 ship penetrated all the way and blew up 57 warships before the power disappeared. There were only 5 warships left in a row, trembling. Success. In the number 1 ship, Chen Finkyo waved his fist excitedly, but no matter how excited he was, he did not forget to give the order to jump back again. At this moment, not only Chen Finkyo, but all the human side on the battlefield saw more than 50 Decidin warships destroyed in a row, and they all burst into huge cheers. Beautiful, the angle is well chosen. One shot hits the target, sending the aliens to the sky. If this happens again, wouldn't it be possible to kill most of the aliens? I wonder why the super weapon is so powerful this time. Last time, it only penetrated 7 warships with one shot. You don't know this, right? Last time it was only launched at 1/8 of the power, but this time it's full power. I heard that, if this thing is at full power, it can destroy the Earth in one shot. There was also cheering in the Earth Command Center. Wang Mazhao's hand holding the railing was loosened a little, suppressing his excitement, and said, "Quick, let all the warships evacuate, and protect the number 1 warship at all costs." In the underground refuge base of the Academy of Sciences, Zhou Yang also witnessed the scene of 50 warships being blown up. This Chen Finkyo has made a great contribution, Zhou Yang said excitedly. After this attack, the balance of victory suddenly tilted a lot towards humans. I'm afraid this trick can only be used once. It depends on what the enemy will do next. Zhou Yang didn't relax completely. 57 warships were destroyed, and the enemy still had 67 warships left. In the main ship of Decidin, the young officer widened his eyes. His expression was as if he had seen a ghost, and he said in a lost voice, "This is a super weapon. How can they have a super weapon? Did the Orma give it to them? It's impossible. The Orma themselves don't have super weapons." Warner was also stunned, but he regained his composure in just a few seconds. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a deep voice, "Quick, the enemy has only one set of super weapons, and it will take time to activate it again. All warships, concentrate firepower, attack this warship, destroy this warship, and we can win." The order was quickly conveyed, and all warships immediately began to concentrate firepower. Dense laser beams, particle weapons, and plasma weapons bombarded the direction of ship number 1. In an instant, more than 20,000 weapon systems launched an attack on ship number 1. This power is definitely not small. However, around ship number 1, there are 41 other warships, stacked one after another in front of ship number 1, using their huge bodies to resist the attack for ship number 1. The one in the front is ship number 33. After only one round of attack, the energy shield has dropped by 63%. Inside ship number 33, Captain Yang Hangshan said with a serious expression, "Quick, evacuate to the left, and get out of the firing range. Every warship of mankind is extremely valuable." As the chief officer of the warship, Wang Mazhao has said more than once during the meeting with them, that the priority should be to save the warships, unless there is no other way. In the current situation, it is heroic to resist the attack, and then the warship is destroyed, but it is only heroic. It is completely possible to choose to get out of the firing range and let the warships behind take over. You must know that there are still 40 warships behind, and it is not a big problem to hold on until ship number 1 leaves. Ship number 33 gave way, revealing ship number 26 behind. The main ship of Desatine saw that the 33rd ship had taken all the attacks and moved immediately to open the firing range. His face changed slightly, and he immediately said, "Change the target and allocate 40% of the firepower to attack this warship." The target he chose was the 33rd ship. The young officer next to him was shocked and said, "General, why don't you attack the warship with the super weapon? If we don't destroy it and let it attack again, we can't resist the super weapon." Warner shook his head and said, "Their tactics are very clear. They use other warships for cover. The warship with the super weapon should have started the space jump and is ready to jump back. It is almost impossible to destroy it in such a short time." As he spoke, the second round of attacks began. 40%, at least 8,000 attacks of various colors, bombarded the 33rd ship, and the remaining attacks, in conjunction with the main guns of the slow starting ships, all bombarded the 26th ship. In the number 33 ship, Yang Hangshan looked at the scorching light outside the porthole and was slightly stunned, but the next moment, he showed a relieved expression. The next moment, the energy shield of the number 33 ship was destroyed, and the warship was pierced by countless laser beams, rumbling and exploding into a huge ball of fire. The number 26 ship next to it was not spared. In the second round of attack, the main guns of the 67 Desatine warships also joined in. The power of the main guns is not comparable to that of ordinary laser guns. So even if the firepower is 40% smaller, the power of this round of attack is more than 50% of the first round of attack. With a bang, the energy shield of the number 26 ship was directly blown up, and then exploded into a ball of brilliant fire. In the number 1 ship, Chen Finkio's eyes were bloodshot, and he gritted his teeth, but there was no way. At this time, escaping from the scene was his most important task. In the other warships, many captains were silent. I expected the loss to come, but when it really came to this moment, I still felt the pain of heartbreak. "It's my turn, Liao Yang, Liao Yan, let's go downstairs and have a drink together." Behind the number 26 battleship, the captain of the number 14 battleship, Zhou Yang, laughed and took the initiative to step forward to block the firing range, and shouted at the same time, "What are you all doing? All the ship guns are firing. Even if you really have to die, you must knock down a little of the enemy's energy shield before you die, so that people won't say that I, Liao Zhao, have no merit at all." The ship guns roared. Soon, the third round of attack came, and the energy shield of the number 14 ship was directly reduced to 24%. The number 14 ship did not evacuate. The number 33 ship had proved that it was useless to evacuate. The enemy had obviously changed its strategy and no longer tried to blow up the number 1 ship. Instead, it took advantage of all the battleships leaving the defense network to concentrate its firepower and destroy the human vitality. "Time is up, everyone. It's an honor to work with you. See you on the road to the underworld. Zhou Yang bowed deeply to all the combatants on the bridge. The next moment, the scorching light flooded the entire battleship. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473. There is another way. Hurry up, hurry up. In the number 1 ship, Chen Finkyo tightly grasped the bridge railing, and his joints turned pale because of the force. In the distance, the number 14 battleship took part of the firepower and exploded into a ball of flames. At the same time, the number 15 battleship next to it also turned into flames under the bombardment of the main gun. There are still 7 seconds left for the space jump. In just 13 seconds, without the cover of the defense network, the 4 battleships were destroyed. Each battleship is fully equipped with more than 13,000 people. In addition to the pilots of 240 carrier-based aircraft, there are also 1,000 pilots of the Zhou Yang. These 1,240 people were released from the battleship during the space jump. However, there are still about 11,760 combat personnel in various positions on the battleship. The destruction of 4 battleships means the death of more than 47,000 people. Those who can be selected from so many armies around the world, board the ship, and become combat personnel of the battleship are all elites. Elites cultivated by the country with great efforts. More than 47,000 people died, which was a huge loss. At the Earth Command Center, seeing the warships being blown up one after another, the command center was silent. The joy of blowing up 57 warships just now was gone in an instant. Wan Mushao had no expression on his face. At this time, he had no time to be sad. He counted down silently in his heart. We have to withstand another round of bombing, but this time there is no main gun, so we should be able to withstand it. But this warship will become the enemy's focus next. 3. When the countdown reached 3 seconds, thousands of guns fired, and countless laser beams flooded the 21st ship. But it was not a big problem. The 21st ship withstood it. 3 seconds later, a space channel appeared, and all the warships immediately drilled into the space channel and disappeared. As a result of the raid, the destruction of 4 warships exchanged for the damage of 57 warships. This result can be said to be a great victory, but thinking about the losses and the cruelty of war, everyone's heart was heavy. In the main ship of Desatine, Warner sighed and said, "Quickly disperse." All the warships immediately dispersed in a staggered manner, keeping a distance of hundreds of kilometers from each other. At this distance, even if they were hit by super weapons, only 1 warship would be lost. Everyone, although we have lost half of our warships, we still have more warships than the enemy, and victory will eventually belong to us. Warner pulled the captains of all the remaining warships into the communication channel to boost morale. After doing all this, Warner held his chin and seriously thought about the situation on the battlefield. The young officer next to him said, "General, should we do the same as them and make a space jump to their rear? We can lock onto their warship with super weapons and jump directly to it. As long as we destroy it, we will win." Warner shook his head and said, "No, didn't you notice that their warship has been staying in the low Earth orbit close to the atmosphere? This position should be the magnetic layer of their planet. If we go deeper, we will enter the magnetic field of their planet." The young officer frowned. He really didn't notice this. The magnetic field of the planet will greatly affect the instability of the space channel, and if the space channel is unstable, it will be a disaster. Therefore, space jumps are generally done directly in space, on the orbit of the planet. Then gather all our warships and rush over. The young officer proposed another bold idea. Warner still shook his head and said, "If it was before, our number of warships was 3 times this, maybe I would adopt this method, but now we only have half of our warships left, and we can't withstand such tossing and losses. And once we gather together, we will become the target of the super weapon, but if we disperse, we will not be able to form an impact force. If we force our way forward, we will be destroyed by the super weapon in one fell swoop. But if we don't gather together, we can't exert the power of the charge. Then General, is there no other way?" the young officer said in annoyance. Warner changed his posture and said, "At this time, the safest way is of course to retreat, request reinforcement, concentrate superior forces, and then attack. But I'm worried that, because of the gravity zone, when we arrive next time, they will have more warships, and now our main battlefield is on Lucas Star. You should know that the Oma civilization has requested mediation from Hirana. Although this matter has not yet come to a conclusion, if the Oma people pay a sufficient price and Hirana intervenes, then the war will be over. So the Empire's idea is to buy time and kill the Oma people in one go before Hirana makes a decision, so that the occupation becomes a fait accompli. So we have invested all our troops, and at this time, we can't allocate large-scale troops to this side. After all, this is just a small battlefield, and even if we can't solve it now, we can deal with this side after we deal with the Oma people. By then, no matter how many warships they build, our large army will come, and thousands or tens of thousands of warships can easily destroy them." The young officer nodded. Even though half of his warships were destroyed, he was still unwilling to accept it. He did not take humans seriously at all. After a pause, Warner suddenly smiled mysteriously and said, "Besides that, there is another way that may work." In space, the cannons of the ships were roaring, and thousands of laser cannons were firing at each other. At this moment, the scattered Desertine warships suddenly began to move, and then, a space channel appeared in front of them. The next moment, all 67 warships entered the space channel and disappeared. The battlefield was instantly quiet. Many officers in the command center were also stunned. Are the aliens running away? Probably. They have already used space jumps. They must have suffered too much loss and retreated. The super weapon is really powerful. One shot destroyed half of the alien warships. Unfortunately, the aliens reacted quickly and scattered. Otherwise, they would be wiped out if they were attacked again. What should we do now? Should we chase them? Chase them. We must chase them. We couldn't chase them before. We could only watch them come and go freely. Now we have space jump technology and the ability to chase them. Why not chase them? But we have fewer warships than them. Will it be a problem to chase them? Everyone talked about it and finally looked at Wang Mazhao. "Have you found out where they jumped to?" Wang Mazhao asked. "I found it. But, it's strange. How did they jump here?" The next moment, the location of the enemy warships was marked on the holographic projection. They all jumped to the vicinity of the sun. Seeing this scene, Wang Mazhao and others were completely stunned. They were not retreating, but how did they retreat to the vicinity of the sun? Chapter 474 Destroying the Sun. In the refuge base, Zhou Yang also saw the scene of the Desertine warship jumping near the sun. Zhou Yang frowned. Retreat? But why choose to jump near the sun? The next moment, Zhou Yang's brain was like an electric shock, and suddenly thought of a possibility, and sat up in shock. Destroy the sun. They want to destroy the sun. Zhou Yang quickly contacted the command center. Wang Mazhao, they want to destroy the sun. They want to destroy the sun. Zhou Yang said hurriedly. On the other side of the video, Wang Mazhao was shocked. Many chief officers present also changed their faces in an instant, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. If the sun is destroyed, the earth will be finished. This move can be said to be a plan to destroy the whole family. To cruel. Mr. Zhao, the sun is so big, can it be destroyed? Wang Mazhao asked hurriedly. The diameter of the earth is 12,000 kilometers, while the diameter of the sun reaches 1.4 million kilometers, which is more than 100 times that of the earth, and it is very hot. I'm afraid that even super weapons may not be able to destroy such a huge star. Zhou Yang calmed down a little bit, thinking about various possibilities in his mind, and said, destroy and destroy are not the same. Using strong external force to directly destroy the entire star is completely different from using special methods to detonate the entire star. The former requires incredible power, while the latter, as long as the method is appropriate, can achieve the same effect with very little power. For example, a forest can be directly wiped out with a nuclear bomb, but using a lighter to light a fire and finally burn the entire forest, the results are the same. But the power used is very different. We don't know if the enemy has similar means. You must know that the sun is like a supernuclear fusion reactor. As long as there is a way to cause the collapse of the solar particle chain, it can cause a supernova explosion. At that time, the diameter of the sun will expand rapidly and finally swallow up the entire solar system. In theory, it can be done, but this is only in theory. Zhou Yang doesn't know how to do it specifically, but Zhou Yang doesn't know whether the enemy has such a method. What if there is? Then the sun is destroyed, and the earth is finished, completely finished. Wang Mizhao gritted his teeth and said, since the enemy has jumped to the vicinity of the sun, perhaps they really have some special weapons that can detonate stars. We can't gamble, we must attack, chase them, and intercept them. But without the Earth's defense network, our main ships are fewer than theirs. It will be very dangerous. Also, what about our super weapons? If the enemy has their backs to the sun, can we launch super weapons? What if our super weapons destroy the sun? That's not good. Even if the super weapons can't destroy the sun, they can slightly cause some fluctuations in the sun, causing a flare explosion or something, which is also a devastating disaster for the Earth. Wang Mizhao's expression became more serious. If he couldn't even use the super weapons, it would be a waste of his own strength. What about attacking the Earth directly? A staff officer proposed an idea. It's impossible. The laser cannon travels at the speed of light. It takes 8 minutes to hit the sun from the Earth. How do you aim? We can't see what they are doing now. What if they are just bluffing? It will take at least 8 minutes to see them. That's 8 minutes. If they really have some means to detonate the sun, we won't be able to stop them in time. Wang Mizhao looked at Zhou Yang and asked, Mr. Zhao, do you have any suggestions? Zhou Yang shook his head and said, I have no suggestions. I don't understand military matters. I'm just reminding you, but the specific strategies still have to be decided by you. After a pause, Zhou Yang said, Wang Mizhao, since the emergency committee has asked you to be the military chief, it means they trust you completely. No matter what decision you make, we will cover you and bear any losses. Of course, those who should be dismissed will still be dismissed. In short, just do it boldly. Don't have any concerns. Weigh it from your professional perspective. Zhou Yang finally said with a smile. Wang Mizhao smiled bitterly, but his eyes became firm. He said, I understand. After that, he cut off the communication. Zhou Yang sighed. This time, the military commander of the Decidin fleet was obviously much more difficult to deal with. After suffering the loss of half of the warships, he immediately thought of using the sun to restrain humans. He was simply a genius. In the military command center, Wang Mizhao took a deep breath and said, Order, all warships, start the space jump, jump to a position 3,000 kilometers away from the enemy ship, and the number 1 ship will also follow. Move as the camera moves, and look for opportunities to launch super weapons. If the situation is not right, flee immediately. Now the solar system is like a Pandora's box. If you don't go there, you will never know what the situation is. 42 warships. 4 were destroyed, and there are still 38. The 38 warships received the order and immediately started the space jump. After Chen Fengqiu ordered a number 1 ship to start the space jump, he suddenly received a communication from Zhu Hongfei, the captain of the carrier-based aircraft brigade. Captain, let us go aboard. We haven't played a role in this war yet. Take us with you in case we are of some use. Zhu Hongfei said. The warships were bombarding each other, and the enemy's carrier-based aircraft had not yet been dispatched, so the carrier-based aircraft on the human side had no effect. And me, in case we are needed. Marbin, the captain of the Mecha brigade, also appeared in the communication. Chen Fengqiu hesitated for a moment, nodded, and said, okay, return to the warship quickly, we will jump in space soon. At the same time, the other 37 warships also received the same request. The carrier-based aircraft brigade and the Mecha brigade returned to their positions at the same time. It took a little time to return. 1 minute later, the 38 warships started the space jump at the same time and drilled into the space channel. The sun has a radius of 700,000 kilometers, and the edge of the sun visible to humans is called the corona. The corona is divided into 3 layers, the inner corona, the corona, and the outer corona. The edge of the outer corona, that is, the edge of the sun visible to humans, is about 1.6 million kilometers away from the center of the sun. At this time, 500,000 kilometers away from the corona, 67 Decidin's warships were suspended in the air. The main ship was facing the sun, firing a scorching laser beam every 8 seconds. At this time, 3,000 kilometers away from the fleet, space channels appeared one after another. "They are coming." Warner smiled confidently in the main ship. The next moment, 38 warships emerged from the space channel. Seeing this scene, Warner smiled even more brightly and said, "Very good. Even this set of super weapons has come together. They really fell for it." Chapter 475, A Fight to the Death. 38 warships jumped out and immediately maneuvered towards ship number 1. At the same time, thanks to the main source magnetic gravitational field communication technology, the situation near the sun was transmitted back to the military command center in the first place. "They are indeed attacking the sun," a staff officer exclaimed. Wang Mazhao's face also sank. In the picture, the enemy's largest main ship is attacking the sun. Although only the main ship is attacking, perhaps only the main ship has this weapon that can detonate a star. As for whether this attack works, it is not clear for the time being. The sun is so hot that it is impossible to look directly at it. I can only vaguely see that the attack sinks into the sun without any waves. But it is also possible that this attack is delayed and requires continuous attacks and then slowly causes a chain reaction. Quick, pass the picture to Mr. Zhou and ask Mr. Zhou whether this attack will detonate the sun, and then order all warships to attack immediately, giving priority to attacking the enemy's main ship. And ship number 1, don't launch the super weapon for the time being. In the picture, the enemy is not only scattered, but also facing away from the sun. If the super weapon attacks, it will definitely attack the sun. Their formation is very purposeful. Wang Mazhao frowned. The enemy formed a circular formation. At the center of the circle was the enemy's main ship, and there was a warship guarding the main ship above, below, left and right. 30 warships were scattered in a circle at an angle of about 12 degrees, 1,000 kilometers away from the main ship. And this was only one layer. There was a second layer directly behind the first layer of the circle, which was staggered from the first layer, and placed all the remaining warships. In this way, if the human warships attacked the main ship, they would first have to break through the energy shields of the 4 escort warships. Even if they could break through, the warships in the circle around them, which were only 1,000 kilometers apart, could quickly rush to the rescue. And this arrangement was also in line with the dispersion of the warships, not giving the super weapons a chance to hit a string with one shot. In addition, facing away from the sun, the super weapons were afraid to act rashly. Wang Mazhao felt that his opponent was difficult to deal with. Although he took advantage of the information gap that the enemy did not know that humans had super weapons, and destroyed half of the opponent's warships in one wave. In the subsequent deployment of troops, humans were completely at a disadvantage. The chief officer of the other side is definitely an experienced military chief officer. In the picture, the warships have begun to bombard each other. Although the number of the other side's naval guns may not be as many as that of human warships, the advantage of numbers has already eliminated the gap in this aspect. So after losing the cover of the Earth's defense network, humans are at a disadvantage. Wang Mazhao and others are also discussing countermeasures. The first way now is to return immediately. I believe that they are just bluffing and have no means to detonate the Sunday. Judging from the enemy's attack methods, there may be a way to detonate the sun, but whether it is really possible is still a question mark. I think we can wait and see the situation first, but I'm afraid that it will be too late to stop it by then. After all, the sun cannot be lost. Wang Mazhao found that humans use the information gap to kill half of the other side's warships, and at this time, the other side also used the information gap, posing a big problem for humans. The second method is to attack by force. No matter how much it costs, we must destroy the other side's main ship to prevent the other side from detonating the Sunday. Everyone's heart sank. No matter how much it costs, these 38 warships are all the belongings of mankind. Personally, I prefer the latter method, fighting. Any conspiracy or trick will ultimately depend on strength, and now is the time to show our strength. Wang Mazhao said, and looked at everyone. The many officers present looked at each other and nodded slowly. Let's fight first. At this time, we have no choice but to fight. Yes, as for the matter of losses, since it is a war, it is impossible to avoid losses. Everyone was unanimous. Fight. Wang Mazhao no longer hesitated and immediately ordered the fleet to maneuver to the side of the desert in battleship to find an angle so that the number 1 ship could launch a super weapon. What do you think? How about jumping behind the enemy once so that the number 1 ship can attack from behind the enemy? At this time, Zhou Yang appeared and said decisively, no more jumping forward. Wang Mazhao was stunned and suddenly realized and said, it's the magnetic layer. Zhou Yang nodded and said, if we go deeper, the space jump will not be safe. Everyone frowned. They used this trick to defend against enemy warships before, but they didn't expect that it would be used by the enemy so soon. Mr. Zhao, are they detonating the sun? Wang Mazhao asked again. Zhou Yang shook his head and said helplessly, I don't know this either, and there is no way to know. Zhou Yang didn't say much, but Wang Mazhao already understood. Zhou Yang sighed and cut off the communication. He didn't know everything. Near the sun, the war has broken out. This time, the enemy's warships carrier-based aircraft were also dispatched, and even the mechas were dispatched. Obviously, the other party is ready to fight humans to the death here. Let all carrier-based aircraft and mechas go out, and then follow the warships, maneuver to the side of the enemy warships, and find an attack angle. In the number 1 ship, Chen Finkyo kept giving orders. All carrier-based aircraft and mechas were dispatched. In a wider place, there was a battlefield for carrier-based aircraft and mechas. Quick, attack. In the communication channel, Zhu Hongfei urged loudly, and all 240 carrier-based aircraft were dispatched. Zhu Hongfei also drove his own carrier-based aircraft, engaging the enemy's carrier-based aircraft in the sky above the battleship battlefield. Cut to the enemy's position. We are too close to the sun now. The radiation is too strong and too dazzling. If we turn our backs to the sun, we can use the sun to interfere with their sight and affect their judgment. Zhu Hongfei said. Although there is a detection system for detection, visual is also an important method of judgment. Facing the sun directly, it will definitely be interfered. On the human side, there are a total of 9,120 carrier-based aircraft, while on the desertine side, the number of carrier-based aircraft has reached about 13,000. More than 20,000 carrier-based aircraft are fighting frantically, and carrier-based aircraft are destroyed from time to time, exploding into a ball of fire. At the same time, there are about 100,000 mechas, also fighting in the gaps. Zhu Hongfei and another carrier-based aircraft cooperated to chase a desertine carrier-based aircraft. After killing the opponent, they suddenly received a communication request from Marbin. Old Ma, what's wrong? Zhu Hongfei asked, while locking the next carrier-based aircraft. Marbin said, Old Zhu, I have an idea, I wonder if it will work. Speak. Zhu Hongfei was targeted by an enemy plane, and was fleeing frantically. Marbin said, do you remember the first time we encountered aliens? That was the day when the lunar base was completed, those alien pirates. At that time Captain Zubin led the special brigade of the lunar base, and started a fight with the enemy. I know, what's the matter? Zhu Hongfei said. Zubin, but an old man in the human mecha army, died gloriously near Pluto, and is also one of the few superheroes of mankind. Marbin said, at that time, Captain Zhu used a method, which was to seize the enemy's carrier-based aircraft, and then use the energy shield to identify the enemy and friend, break into the energy shield of the enemy ship, and then cause damage to the enemy from the inside. Do you think we can do the same? Zhu Hongfei's eyes lit up instantly, thought quickly, and gritted his teeth and said, no matter whether it works or not, we will know if we try it. Even if we can only destroy one of the enemy's warships, it will be a big profit. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.